Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the first day of Risen Champions League. You would have seen the open qualifiers right here on this very channel with the man right next to me. Welcome back, Fury, for the first official day of the Risen Champions League.
Yeah, I'm super hyped for this. Only my second day on AOE, and I'm getting to cast Dignitas versus AOE. This should be a really big fight between these two guys. I mean, super just powerhouses all together. And then I get to cast this with you. Obviously, we came from BOL. If you're watching the channel right now, AOE just banned Lulu. That just got grayed out. Just a little bit of a visual bug, but that was a Lulu ban from AOE on that side.
It always stresses me out when Pro Draft misses something, but teams should know what it was. I think I'm getting word that it may have been a Karma as well, so we'll sort that out. But Lulu might be taken off the board anyways, and it's a strong ban here, as are most of them. The Nocturne set, definitely interesting from AOE, but if you've seen AOE play before, you can certainly understand why the Gwen and Lee Sin are being taken away from Faisal specifically.
Yeah, and Gwen has just been incredibly strong as well. We saw her picked up in every game on Saturday here, especially with Supernova versus Mercenaries. Gwen picked up. Ezreal has always been a prio pick as well. Wouldn't be surprised if he was picked up first here from AOE. But no, they're going to go ahead and grab up that Viego here, something that, if you're paying attention to the players, we've been seeing played a lot of from AOE.
Yeah, and this is actually something that you and I were discussing even before the game, because AOE have the ability to play this, we suspect, in multiple roles. I know that I personally have seen it on Dark Wings, who's an insane Viego, but you were telling me that RBM has been practicing it in solo queue as well. So This is actually a flex pick for AOE, and it's a nice thing to start off with, but they are going to give over two big power picks there, the Varus and the Rumble.
Yeah, Varus Rumble, really great at just contesting any kind of neutral objectives. You know, that Rumble ultimate, especially into the later game, is on an incredibly short cooldown. You'll see him drop it 3 times in a team fight if it goes on for long enough, and Varus is obviously there to hold everybody together. AOE going really quickly on the bot side here with that Jinx Thresh pick.
Yeah, so this is an interesting thing for them to pick up right now, because as much as it's sort of a response to the Varus, it's also a pretty nullifying bot lane. Jinx Thresh, as much as you may be scared of Thresh in solo queue, isn't particularly volatile. This is a scaling option for later, and AOE definitely signaled to me with that they don't want to play around the bot side, they want to focus more on top, which when you're facing up against the likes of Cyber and Dragoon, I can't fault them for.
Right, no, you definitely can. If you want to play around top, do that. Play around top and jungle. Your bot lane can just be neutral, going for scaling with the Jinx Thresh. Now, Jinx, I think, is going to scale very well against the Varus. Thresh into Nautilus, on the other hand, I feel like Nautilus is going to scale up just a little bit better if you are going for that later game picks here. Now, we are moving into the final phase of the bans here. Moving on to Dignitas Mirage. They're going to take away this Camille, it seems, at least, and they are going to have that and go ahead and get rid of that Camille for a lot of that pressure.
Yeah, top lane is the one thing that Dignitas Mirage can be relatively certain that AOE don't have yet. Right. It's worth noting, of course, that Dignitas Mirage is a pretty new entry into the Tier 2 scene. They didn't compete in just last month's Challengers Uprising. Instead, entering now in Risen, have a lot of ground to cover in terms of getting themselves points to be able to make it all the way up to those Proving Grounds. But Mirage is a name that you definitely will have heard around the Proving Grounds scene before, having competed all the way back in last seasons, and unfortunately didn't have that great of a record. So with a new remixed roster, with a little bit more support from behind the scenes under the Dignitas name, I wonder if they're going to be able to make this season work better for them.
I would hope so, for sure. I mean, you know, Dignitas, big name. They want to definitely prove a name for themselves here in the amateur scene. And right away, you know, you're getting rid of a lot of these top lane bans. And that's what we were talking about earlier as well, is that the top lane focus is very heavy in this game, the top and jungle. Looks like we're going to see a Gangplank picked up here, which I do like a lot. It's a pretty good semi-blind pick, although AOE, if they want to take something that goes very hard into Gangplank, they definitely can. Gangplank sure has a lot of unfavorable matchups, I will say, but one of the big ones was taken off the board in the Wukong, and then, of course, that Camille taken away as well.
Here's what I wonder as well, because Dignitas are kind of throwing a gauntlet right now, going with the Gangplank, because if you've seen AoE play before, you know that Faisal is anything but a strong side player. He's really been known for the weak side, and yes, he may have some nice laning phases, but more often than not, he's that reliable part of AoE that falls behind in farm but brings the utility later on, most notably on that Scion, who he's not deviating away from even into this Gangplank matchup, so not getting the most out of the map just yet are AoE, but as they lock in the Diana, I think they've got a game plan.
Yeah, they definitely have a really good setup here. Really just kind of protect the Jinx comp. You know, how Diana go in, Viego go in, Scion with an ultimate. The Nico getting grabbed by Dignitas Mirage here. I have not seen a Nico picked up in quite some time. I'm very excited to watch that play out.
That'll be going into the mid lane there for DNA, of course, and I'm excited for the Nico, mainly because if you look at AoE, their comp kind of gets dunked by it. The Jinx is going to be probably the best bet into the Nico because she doesn't have to dive you, but everybody else is going to be right on top of Dignitas Mirage, and it gives you a very favorable spot for not just the Nico, but for the barrels coming through from Dragoon as well. There's a lot of counterplay to what AoE have, and it forces AoE to almost execute perfectly on their composition in a lot of the mid-game fights if Dignitas are even or ahead.
Right, now I will say I think AOE Esports has a better shot of going for kind of picks with their comp, but an overall team fight, I really want to give that to Dignitas Mirage just based off of the pick bans here. Obviously, something can change during the actual game itself that completely swings that around, but I got to give it a Mirage for sure, just in the initial analysis on a 5v5 team fight.
Yeah, absolutely. I do want to note that there's something interesting going on here. I don't think that it'll be game determining, but it's a pattern that AoE have demonstrated that they've sort of continued here, even going into Risen Champions League, and that is that they'll choose all AD lanes with RBM on the only AP on the map, and I think that that's really telling for how AoE like to play the game. They sit around and sort of let RBM be the main force dictating the pace for the most part until we hit that like 20-minute mark when you get your backup win conditions like Dark Wings and Sketch Streams going. And being the only AP makes it so much easier for RBM to dictate that pace, to constantly force the plays because people aren't itemizing into him. So I like that they're at least staying consistent with that one strong thing that they're very clearly able to pull off in draft.
Yeah, and you were telling me earlier that they do focus around RBM a lot here, and that will definitely work out. If everybody's building armor on the other side of the map, they're not going to see the AP damage coming from Diana. Like you said, they're not really itemizing into it. Now, on the other hand, you're not going to see a lot of itemization into that with the comp that's been picked up by Dig. You know, GP, Rumble, Nico, they're not really looking to go heavy onto any kind of armor or magic resist, especially very early on. Now, Nautilus, he's going to be itemizing into that for sure, but later on, he's going to be the only tank, and then if he gets taken out, it's going to be hard to take a full-on fight. If he does, in fact, get picked up, kind of like what we were talking about, if they're going to be looking for picks throughout this game. And big matchup, I think, here in the mid lane, the Viego versus the Nico. I think the Nico, just purely based off of poke, is going to have a better time, obviously, just because of the main range that she has over Viego. But another thing to look at is going to be the top side, the GP versus the Scion, where GP is going to try and just continuously poke out Scion as much as he can, but Scion has just so much healing and tankiness in his kit, there's probably not going to be a whole lot of actually killing happening up top side.
Now, Scion, like you say, might not get poked out, but I do think it's worth noting that, as you mentioned, Gangplank is going to be trying to harass him, and that's going to be happening in the mid lane as well. It's going to be happening in the bot lane. So, despite the fact that AoE have drafted themselves a composition that relies pretty heavily on the jungle, they don't actually have a whole lot of ways to back up their jungler without losing resources in the lanes.
Right. Yeah, exactly. There's going to be, like I said, a lot of poking, but it's a lot of healing that they have. There's already, a lot of tankiness. There's healing in the lanes. I don't think there's enough poke to actually secure kills until we see RBM or Cyber make a play around the map, or Dragoon hits 6, goes for an ultimate across the map and starts to help out his team. I imagine we're going to be seeing a lot of roaming from DNA, however, on this Nico, which he excels quite a bit on. If we don't see that happening, I think it's kind of a loss on their part, not moving around the map, taking full advantage of what they can with the Nico pick. And I think with the lanes that they have, Scion, Jinx, Thresh, they don't have the easiest forms or reliability of getting away from a gank unless they use their flash, or if Fizzy is going to be behind Sketch to throw out those lanterns, or if Scion ultimates. It's going to be hard to find them. So if they're moving around the map, they can find some easy kills, if not at least blow a flash or an ultimate if needed.
Yeah, but there are a lot of conditions that have to be met, and a lot of hoops that specifically AoE have to jump through if they are the ones that want to be finding those kills. Let's find out if they can meet them once we get back from a very short break and bring you guys onto Summoner's Rift for Game 1. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome on to the Rift for the first game of the day between AOE and Dignitas Mirage. We didn't get to touch on it too much in the draft Fury, but one of the things that I definitely see from this is not only the classic AOE, but an AOE that wants to come out swinging. After being knocked out in the quarterfinals of Challengers Uprising, they got a lot to prove because going down in quarters has left them out of a lot of conversations that you and I both know AOE deserve to be in when you're talking about those teams to the top.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, just looking at the player lineup, looking at what they've actually drafted, this game alone looks very well for them, especially Darkwings on this Viego. We were talking about it just before we came back online here, but Darkwings being able to take the basic abilities of, most of the members of Dig here would be incredibly powerful. Imagine a Viego with a dredge line coming at you with a barrel combo off of Dragoon. If you manage to take him out, that'd be an incredibly strong Darkwings coming out. If they're able to turn this game around, especially against a name like Dignitas, that would really, finally put them back on those conversations that should be happening.
Now, we got to remember as well that Dignitas also have a lot to prove because the Dignitas name is not alone. Coupled with Mirage, who maybe haven't had the best showing in the Tier 2 scene before, and not having participated in Challengers Uprising, there's a lot of ground to be made up by names that have been around this proving ground scene for some time, and the experience will definitely show here, and I want to see if it continues in the later stages of the game when there are so many things that Dignitas Mirage can do to catch out the members of AOE. But right now though, it's a pretty quiet early game because everybody at this professional level knows that you don't really want to coin flip on early action until your jungler gets there.
Yeah, you say that though, but Saturday, Supernova versus Mercenaries was an absolute bloodbath. We were seeing first bloods taken at about 3 minutes into the game, so I am no stranger at this point to having insanely powerful trades early on, like we're seeing right now with DNA versus Darkwings here in the mid lane. I imagine everybody's just kind of waiting for levels 2 to 3 to where they start hitting their early power spikes here, and then we start seeing a lot more trading come through, and that's really where the power will start to show, where everybody will start to get their early advantages and then try to scale those advantages into the mid to later game so that they can keep the leads they garnish early continuing on. Down bot lane, Fizzy's up, throwing out a quick little death sentence. I'm not sure if it landed though, because we were brought straight up to the top lane.
Yeah, so not going to result in anything, and certainly the only thing that's coming out now are small CS advantages in the lanes. And the lanes, as we expected them to go outside of the bot lane, but the junglers don't seem that concerned with the lanes just yet. Instead, choosing to focus on the scuttles right now, namely RBM already making his way onto the first scuttle right now, might be able to deny a second, especially since DNA is resetting in the mid lane.
Yeah, that's a really big move for RBM with Fizzy helping out to secure that bot lane scuttle. However, we're not going to see RBM move straight up into the top lane. That gives Cyber a chance to finish off those Krugs, get the full clear, and move on to that scuttle now, as he is taking that with RBM on the bot side finishing up their Krug. So this is where we may see a gank. Dragoon did just TP up into the top lane. With that, we may see RBM start to transition up there, but for now, it looks like he may be going for a lane gank.
We mentioned, of course, the reset from DNA, got himself a nice little back there, now responded to by Darkwings, but the one back that we haven't seen responded to just yet, of course, is in that bot lane where Sketchstream's got to get a cheat or recall off as well. Gets himself a colon. If you can keep this advantage that you have in the lane as AOE, it'll help Jinx hit her power spikes that much more quickly.
Yeah, you definitely want to start getting that call up, and with that, you want to let Ninetales kind of start shoving into you, kind of freeze the wave towards your tower, which it does look like they're going for a dredge line.
Good hook, and Cyber's here as well. Fortunately enough, it will be the back away from AOE as they recognize that it's not their time to fight. Still going to be chunked out a little bit, and the bot lane is on the back foot, but certainly healthy enough to continue laning, and Cyber's going to have to slink back into the jungle as yet another dredge line lands.
Yeah, Light Pulse very willing and able to land those dredge lines at any possible moment here, and getting decent trades off for it as well. Speaking of decent trades in the mid lane there, Darkwings getting brought insanely low to DNA there, and he's gonna have to get sent back to base and potentially look to TP back here, but no, he's gonna cancel that back. He sees RBM hovering on the mid lane, maybe looking for a gank.
See if that turns into anything. I am really appreciating, though, that Dignitas Mirage are consistently pinging out exactly where RBM is, and it's in no small part thanks to those wards that they've scattered aggressively in the enemy jungle, and it's an advantage that Dignitas Mirage have over AOE that is completely unresponded to. This vision isn't being aggressively placed by AOE, and it's setting them behind in the tempo. They're not the ones running the game right now, as we can only expect based on the lanes.
Yeah, the bot lane for Dig has to know that RBM is there. They were spotted on that ward that they had deep on the Raptors, and they played this very smartly, backing up instantly, not really putting any more pressure like we have been seeing him in the bot lane for them when they know that RBM's up top side. So they start to back off just a little bit there. Darkwing's gonna go ahead and TP back into lane after making that successful back. Cyber gonna hover around the mid lane here, and it looks like they may start to look for a gank in the bot side. However, RBM is still down there, may see a full-on 3-on-3 if it continues the way it is going right now.
Good hook. Well, I don't think it'll turn into anything, though, especially as RBM does spot Cyber. He's going to take the fight of his own. Well, the fight in the bot lane forces the flash out of Fizzy. Sketchstream is backing off as well, means that RBM has to ditch that river. I'm not sure if Dignitas Mirage are going to give up on it. As he retreats into the Fog of War, though, will get out okay. Well, the jungler of AOE, but it's a close call for this squad. After taking that skirmish, they've given up a lot of Dragon Prio as well.
Yeah, Dig definitely have the prio now for themselves, as Fizzy was forced to back. Not very many sums blown, though. Just an exhaust and a flash from the two supports. And nobody really forced to use anything there. Both ADCs still strong, still able to fight. Looks like Sketch may look to start to back here, but the dragon is going to go ahead and get taken up by Dig as Darkwings and DNA start to battle it out in the mid lane.
The early Infernal Drake is exactly what you're hoping for. It's the best roll of the dice for the Dignitas Mirage squad early on into the game, because when we look at this roster of champions, all you see is priority with the Nico in the mid lane, with the Gangplank in the top lane into the Scion, and the Varus bot. It's exactly what you're drafting for, and you're hoping to God that you get that first dragon. Things like Mountain don't feel as good, but the Infernal to bolster your damage as you approach that mid-game is only going to help when you've got such a well-thought-out comp.
Yeah, Infernal's great for them right now. Close second at this point would have been the Air Drake, I think, even over the Ocean, just based on who they're playing as. You know, that extra little bit of cooldown reduction would have been great on any of those champions, especially on Cyber and Dragoon, with their ultimates being pretty long on the cooldowns early on anyway. Later on, even Dragoon's going to still feel the length of cooldowns on that ultimate. But the Infernal Drake early on here, you are looking just for straight up damage very early here, and that's exactly what they got, and that's exactly what they're going to keep running through when we're going to see the effects of this Infernal Drake up on the top side as they try to contest this rift.
Yeah, this is an interesting late rotation from Dignitas Mirage. AOE have been proactive. Will it pay off for them? I don't think they've managed to secure the Rift Herald just yet, and the flash of the wall is just a little too late from RBM. He goes back in, gets taken down for first blood by Dragoon, and from the backline, it looks like Ninetales is doing fine, but it's Darkwings that's saving the day there with the Viego. A triple root from TNA will save Dignitas Mirage, and it'll be a trade of 2 for 1 in favor of AOE. But they do also get the Rift Herald.
I was about to say, we got the Rift Herald as well. Faisal coming in with the ultimate on the back side of there, able to squeak right past and grab that Rift Herald there. And 2 for 1, they got the Rift Herald. You definitely want to take that every day of the week, even with that Infernal Dragon picked up early on. AOE really came together. I thought Dig was going to be able to turn that around for themselves, maybe at least squeak out with that Rift Herald, but no sir. It looks like they're still going to have a nice lead of about 300 gold. Not too much, but where it's really coming together for them is on the CS leads in every lane, actually.
Yeah, they're doing really well, despite the fact that AOE make that proactive play, moving their bot lane to the top side first to get the Rift Herald. They don't actually see any benefit from it in the gold just yet, and we're really waiting for the Rift Herald to pop, for that to actually become a reality. And a reminder, of course, that Faisal is the one that grabbed it, not the junglers you typically see, so it's very easy for Dignitas Mirage to play around the only place where they know the Rift Herald can be dropped.
Yeah, I was going to say, Faisal wants to look to drop that, but it's going to be really hard to do that when you have pretty much everybody on Dig that's going to be gunning you down. You know, all eyes are on Faisal right now to drop that Rift Herald somewhere that it's going to be able to make use out of it. I imagine he's going to maybe look to go mid with it. If he's going to look for maybe a team fight, maybe call for his team to go and roam somewhere so that he can drop it and follow up with an ultimate into that fight. And that way he kind of clears the clutter with Dig. Someone's going to have to stop the Rift Herald or risk not being in that fight. That's probably the best option for him at this point, unless he just wants to shove in a Dragoon and drop it and get a couple plates off of it. That's the only other solution for him at this point.
Yeah, it seems like it was the plan, and that's where you really see this Gangplank matchup starting to favor Dignitas Mirage. They take that bet, saying, I don't think, Faisal, that you're going to be able to push our top laner out, and now it's turning into AOE needing to commit multiple members up here. We'll see if they can pull off this dive. Gangplank is difficult, but doesn't seem like he has the cooldowns there under the tower. Faisal going to tank it up, and it's an easy Rift Herald drop for AOE.
Yeah, well, you know what? Maybe AOE just overheard me and said, we're going to completely shut him out. We're just going to go for a dive up top side, and a very nice dive indeed. They get 4 plates, maybe even the tower at this point. Nobody is around to contest. However, their bot side is in danger with a Dig potential dive of their own. We saw Light Pulse just charge up that Hex Flash over the wall there.
What comes up must go down, and it's really never been more clear here than as all of AOE go up, their bot lane is forced to back away, costing Sketchstreams some of the CS lead that he had, still maintaining ever so slightly an advantage here, but it's a difficult spot for this duo. They've got to not die, and that hook from Light Pulse should mean that Dignitas Mirage call off this dive. They've got DNA down here as well. This is the response. Faisal's on the way down. It's a risky play. Dignitas Mirage wisely are going to call this off.
Yeah, I would say Dragon's up in about 5 seconds here as well, so Diggy need to make the move or back off with the prio they have and potentially go for this Dragon. But it looks like they're actually going to back off. We're going to keep Cyber around the Dragon here and look for some vision around it. And he's calling for his bot lane to come up now. So we may see a little bit of a fight come around here. And Dig are pinchered by the rest of AOE.
Oh, great stopwatch from Fizzy. Buys a lot of time there. A better flash as well with the hook. Lands so much CC, but with no follow-up from the rest of the squad, it's not going to turn into anything. Faisal just now having walked his way down, and RBM tries to go for the engage, but doesn't end up using the Moonfall to finish it off. Down a member. AOE may just have to back off this Dragon for good.
Yeah, although AOE is still pretty healthy for this, it is still, no matter what, a 4-on-5, and you never really want to have to take that. They are starting this Dragon, though, in a bad position.
Faisal's forced to flash. There's the Moonfall. A 4-person one, no less. But the even better ult from DNA turns things around just in time. And it is a big snowball in the favor of Dignitas Mirage as AOE, in a big way, overstep their bounds.
Yeah, DGM take full advantage of that 5v4. AOE tried to make a desperation play for that, but it was stolen by Sketchstreams with the ultimate.
How on earth are we worthy of you, Sketchstreams? Making it happen there takes what AOE tried to get in the first place. And we should be very clear, they should never have gotten. That Dragon should not have been theirs. And it's a good thing that they managed to secure it at the very end, but they did still... What's that called? Incur a cost. There we go.
Yeah.
Of their members dying there. 3 people go down in that fight, and AOE are still hurting despite the fact that the Dragons are even.
Yeah, and they still have about 1,000 gold lead, so not too bad for them right now. It's dead even, pretty much on everything across the board except for that one tower. That's in AOE's favor. So nothing really leaning any one way just yet as Darkwings and DNA take a little bit of a trade in the mid lane here, but the damage output between these two mid laners right now is pretty much dead even.
Yeah, they are really, what is it called, constantly fighting in this mid lane too, constantly testing exactly how much they have. But what Darkwings has that DNA doesn't right now is that Mythic that's giving him a little bit of extra sustain and even pressure in the all-in should it come to that. So DNA has to play with a little bit more respect than he has been the entire laning phase. I talked about how AOE are hurting, but you bring up a good point. They've got the gold lead and they've got the tower lead in the top lane. They've managed to equalize the Dragons, and as much as that fight looked bad, they may not be in any trouble after all.
Ooh, yeah, and an ultimate missing right there from Ninetales. So the ensuing fight, if it does come up, is not going to be great for them. However, Cyber was on the bot side there, sitting on the alcove right now. Up on the top side over Faisal, just pushing in these waves. The Rift Herald is up on the top side here as well.
Let's see if this turns into a Sketch Stream's death. Great body block from Fizzy. Does mean that he's going to go down, which hurts, albeit, but not nearly as much as Sketch Streams. And a well-thought-out sacrifice is going to mean that the Jinx gets to walk off, and RBM rotates down to see if he can stop this tower from being taken. I'm not sure that he can, but they're god well going to try.
Yeah, and RBM's going to go in. Here comes the TP from Faisal as well.
Good Moonfall to keep Cyber in place means that a big shutdown goes into the pockets of RBM. And this time, it's Dignitas Mirage that try and take a little bit more than they can handle. DNA, the real one, getting stunned right there. Takes a big chunk of damage as well, and Darkwings is threatening to kill.
Yeah, Darkwing's potentially looking for a dive here. However, that's a little bit of an issue as DNA does have the ultimate up as well as the flash. The ultimate from Viego is very, very predictable. So if he goes for that DNA, I'd imagine at this level, you're just looking for a flash out of the way into your own ultimate, and Darkwings could fall there. So glad Darkwings didn't follow up and actually go for that dive, but now Dragoon on the top side here, taking down that tower, may just be falling.
Gets the turret. Will it cost him his life? There are so many members committed up here. Nothing else that AOE have to do but bully this Gangplank into the ground. Are going to try and leave that kill for Darkwings. He will get it using the ultimate, but it was a close fight there. Dragoon's damage output is nothing to be scoffed at.
Yeah, that Triforce on the GP still does an incredible amount of damage. So he almost took it. Almost went for that one-on-one. I imagine if it got too close, we would have seen RBM step in a little bit more and try to just finish off the kill. But offering to give that kill over to Darkwings, very smart there. Get Viego a little bit even more ahead than he is now, as he only still has that Immortal Shield Bow. Going for another item as DNA down to the bot side, finishing off this bot lane tower. And just like that, Dignitas are going to go ahead and turn this around in favor for themselves with these turrets. Still down about 800 gold at the moment, but Dragon will be up in about a minute, and then we'll see exactly what will come of that, because I imagine they're going to be going for this fight, as this is going to be an Ocean Soul this game, a very important soul.
Now, crucially, because of the denial from our hero, Sketch Streams, it's not going to be a soul that Dignitas can try and secure themselves this time. Not even soul point, just going to be getting themselves a little bit further stacked on that Ocean Drake, and an AoE don't actually have to contest this. Although, if we're looking at last fight, it's very likely that they will, just to test their limits.
Yeah, they're going for the limit testing in the big matches here. And Viego, though, is going to be a very key member in those fights, being 3, 1, and 2 now. Has the Merc Treads, the ultimate coming in from Tail Ninetales.
Another great stopwatch, though, is going to take RBM out to safety, and that's an ult burned for no pressure. DNA going to have to back away, though, as Fizzy flushes the hook, gets it onto Cow, and he's going to go down as Light Pulse desperately tries to escape. This time, it is AOE with the pick, and they're looking to turn it into even more. Moonfall into the backline, forces 2 out, but no follow-up from the rest of AOE. They should be looking just for that Dragon. They got what they came for, and it looked like Dig could not do anything about it.
Yeah, they used 3 ultimates very, very early there just to try and pick out RBM, and it didn't work out as well as they would have liked it to, as that stopwatch was broken and the Lantern was right there for the save. So Dragoon, Cyber, and Cow all using their ultimates very early there. Didn't net them anything, and just like that, AoE was able to turn that fight on its head, pick up a couple kills as well as the Dragon here, and that brings up their gold lead to about 2k now as Darkwings is working on this bot lane tower.
That's worth noting, of course, as we've reached a small little bit of reset there for AoE that I don't believe I've mentioned it yet, but Tail Ninetales down in the bot lane for Dignitas Mirage does go by another moniker. His name is also Cow in the professional scene, and so we're using that for right now, just because Tail Ninetales is a solo QID that we're choosing to use, but trying to build up some notoriety for the guy here, and he's doing quite well. Outside of being hooked that one time, the lethality varies with the Prowler's Claw. That's really been laying down the hurt.
Yeah, and those ultimates, besides the one that we saw in the bot lane, have been landing very often and looking very well. They're, you know, grabbing those picks when he can. The problem is the execution from the rest of the team hasn't quite been where it needs to be at this moment, especially in that last fight. If they were able to actually secure RBM in that fight, surely that would have turned around in their favor to grab that dragon. It's just AOE, like we talked about earlier, a very strong competitor in this scene, and were able to really play their way out of that one. And even though Sketchstream doesn't have any kills, 0-5 has the finished Kraken Slayer, 188 CS, 187 CS right now, most in the game at the moment. 20 over Cal is looking incredibly strong, and we talked about it in the pre-draft as well, that Jinx left untouched for a game will outscale until the end of time.
Sketchstreams has been quite literally untouched, involved in the fights, but just at the edge, has only the gold left over from those assists to help him out, but it's very clearly paying off, and with the CS advantage as well. Now that we've crested 20 minutes, you can't afford to disrespect the damage that Jinx can put out, not just onto you, but onto the Baron as well.
Yeah, for sure. And when it comes to those neutral objectives, that is really where this game has been played around. Every team fight that we've been seeing has either been around Rift Herald or around the Dragons. Now the next one will be around this Baron if they choose to go for that as well. However, in the bot side, we did just see Dark Wings clear up a tower down there, so we're getting a lot of gold strictly off of these neutral objectives, now upping it to almost a 3k gold lead over Dig at the moment. And we always talk about that 5k gold lead. Faisal come down to the bot lane and fight Dragoon with RBM in the wings.
Yeah, Ignite, interestingly enough, has gone down since Sion is pulling the spell book there, and Dragoon looks like he's going to be pulled right back down as RBM comes in to clean up that kill. Faisal getting the gold for it, though, is a little bit of an issue, and it might be a bigger one as the fight's going to break out right now. DNA's teleported down, Darkwings matches it, and now it's Dignitas Mirage that are in even more trouble as they're trying to start a fight around here, but they're losing their mid lane tower and they're going to lose DNA at the same time, as now it's Darkwings all the way with the Nico that's going to be able to lay down the hurt onto Cyber, taking the 1v1. The turrets are going down, and so are the members of your team. A double kill goes to RBM. AOE, they dismantled Dignitas Mirage at 22 minutes.
And they're destroying the base. Sketchstreams with an ultimate all the way from the mid lane to help out his team in that fight. Now they're working on the inhib. Dragoon is the only member alive from Dig to try to stop this push. It looks like he may very well do it as well, but at least 2 towers in the mid lane, 1 outer, and an inhib turret going down for that entire fight.
That is a big cost to incur as Dignitas Mirage, and you mentioned the 5k. Well, now we have the 6k for AOE off of that small play alone. Sketchstream's going to be able to clear out the remainder of the jungle for Cyber, set him even further behind in the jungle. And remember, that Baron that we alluded to earlier still hasn't been focused. Now, it's all that AOE can even think about, because for the next minute, it's the one objective on the Rift.
Right, and I don't know if they want to go straight for it. However, I feel like they may just get some vision around it, maybe move towards that next dragon, unless they just want to give the dragon over to Dig while they take the Baron. I think that's a fair trade, although I don't know if that'll be happening, as Dig are setting up around this Baron, trying to get some vision around here. Meanwhile, we have AOE kind of scattered around the map on a 1-3-1.
I really like the assignment as well, because they're leaving the core of 2 that have been the real base destructors for AOE. Sketchstreams and Fizzy basically just big chillin', rotating around, getting farm on the Jinx, taking whatever they can, and letting the rest of the squad try and 3v5. It's actually been working out as the game plan. As we approach the dragon, though, in just 11 seconds, AOE are going to have to take a swift pivot into the 5v5 priority if they want a chance of putting themselves on Soul Point.
Yeah, a big death bush getting set up here by Dig. They are going to back off just a little bit here. I believe they just got spotted out by Sketch. A ward over the wall is not going to see the other 3 members. However, they are going to have to back right off here, which is an interesting play, as they were trying to set up for the death bush. They had the death bush, and as soon as AOE start walking forward, they realize maybe we can't take that fight, and they have to go back and try to stop the push on this inhib.
It's tough because the perfect team fight for Dignitas Mirage right now starts with a pick, and it's so difficult to actually pick anyone. You can't pick Faisal because he's Scion. It's hard to pick RBM because he's happy to be on top of you. Picking Darkwings is impossible because he's got the lifeline passive out of the Immortal Shield Bow, and Sketchstreams has a stopwatch. What can you possibly do there? Dignitas Mirage, without a creative angle, they recognize just as much as we do. They've got to wait for AOE to take a big miss position before they can take a fight.
Yeah, for sure. The only reason is I don't know how well you're gonna go for that, if it's really even going to happen. If you pick up anybody, maybe it's Fizzy while he's looking for a ward, but especially around a dragon, which, you know, it's a major team fighting scenario, you're not really gonna get a pick off of somebody from that. That's a scenario where it's not really gonna happen. But a fight opening up here.
Yeah, this is that Fizzy dream. They go for it, and Light Pulse actually going to be able to clean this up with Ninetales picking up the kill. Light Pulse escapes as well. The Mega Death Rocket goes wide, but Faisal finishes it off with the unstoppable onslaught, and it's going to be a 1-for-1 support for support, and AOE maintain their chokehold on the game.
Seen again right there. They get the pick, and kind of as we predicted, onto Fizzy, and look at everything that was blown just to pick him up. A flash from Dragoon, a heal from Ninetales, or Cow, and then the ultimate from Dragoon, Cyber, Cow, and Light Pulse there just to pick up one support is not great for you, especially on the cooldowns that you have at this point in the game, because you're not going to now have those to contest this Baron. If you try to contest, everybody on the member of AOE is significantly stronger at this point.
Cyber doesn't even have an equalizer for this. It's up in 10 seconds, though, and Faisal still tanking the Baron. It's actually, unbeknownst to him, buying time for this crucial cooldown. Our Dignitas Mirage going to be able to lay down the red carpet to try and steal this away, because AOE are stalling right now for the support to come back in, and Fizzy, he's just going to get hooked one more time. Going to maybe get picked. Faisal's trying to finish off the Baron. The equalizer finally comes down, but it's RBM that secures it with Cyber flashing over the wall. He's not going to be able to pick up the kills, and they're going to give up Faisal, our AOE, to run away with that big purple worm in their pocket.
Yeah, that's not a bad trade for them, though, being able to pick up that Baron. At that point, I think that's as best as they could have hoped for. Fizzy going in, dying, buying a little bit more time was a very good play. RBM successfully holding on to that Baron. After what we saw earlier with Sketch stealing the Dragon, I almost thought we would have seen a steal from the side of Dignitas, but no, it goes their way. They extend their gold lead out to 7K here. They're one off of this soul point, and they have 3 towers ahead of Dig. Now, I imagine we're going to be seeing a little bit of a split from the team to hopefully secure some objectives on the side lanes, top and bot primarily, as the mid lane is still open for the inhib, but those towers should be your main priority.
Yeah, that's certainly the thing that AOE are most well set up to take now as well. Having the Baron and having a split that we've already seen work, the 1-3-1 for them, has been doing them wonders with Darkwings taking the side lane, and Faisal very comfortable on the Scion to do so as well. Although it looks like they're going for a little bit of a cheeky play, even putting RBM into the side lane, making it nearly impossible to answer this deadly combo.
Yeah, it's not a bad move at all, considering you have to, I think, at this point, send 2, maybe 3 people to stop RBM with how strong they're at this point. Diana with Baron, with Moonfall, Crescent Strike, really strong. But doesn't look like anything's really going to happen except for a big opening in the bot lane here, which leaves Faisal and RBM to push through the mid to go for that in-hit.
Yes, the best feeling wave clear ultimate gets channeled from Cyber, and that leaves you with not a whole lot to do. RBM not going to be caught by the root there. A potential team fight starting off as he tries to escape through that top lane, and DNA is on the chase. Flashes for the root here. RBM not going to get the Moonfall, goes back in, trying to finish off DNA. Might get the kill under the tower, but the heal comes out. And what will it be at the cost of? Because RBM falling is a big deal for AOE, but they're going to be able to answer it back with this bot lane tower.
Yeah, sending 5 for RBM I don't think is the best choice for you. But a TP is going to come out from DNA, immediately gets rooted from those chompers over the wall. And Dig are on the hunt here with Faisal behind them.
This is risky, actually, letting Scion flank you for free like this. And Dignitas Mirage, they are rolling the dice on whether they're going to be able to outplay teamfight, if they can even find one, because right now they're just dancing around it as AOE. Faisal comes in from the side, and he instantly knocks up one, almost finds another, and it's a trade of 1 kill going down for AOE, but the entirety of Dignitas Mirage is going to fall here with only Cow left alive. A teleport into the base. AOE might have just won the game.
Yeah, a massive ultimate from Faisal, which started all the way back at this inhibitor, able to get a nice ultimate through the river there, and be able to secure a couple kills for his team, which helps Dark Wings able to use that passive to transform and then just continue to transform from there. TP's up into the top side and looking to end this game.
Think he might be able to do it as well. Cow is still up. Cyber's up in 4 seconds, but AOE should have the damage with the Jinx and the Viego on top of everything to finish this one off. Game 1 is going to go to AOE, and they start their Risen Champions League run off right.
Yeah, they start this off incredibly well. I mean, they pick up 4 Drakes with the Soul. They managed to get the Baron. They had a lot of very solid team fights as well, and I think that's really what pushed them forward in this game, where around these neutral objectives, it wasn't even necessarily the side lanes that won. It was whenever these neutral objectives opened up and they went for the team fight, they just had a much more cohesive team fight, which was the opposite of what I expected to come through. I really thought Dig had the better champions for those fights, but it just seemed maybe just the communication and overall level of play on AOE just got the better of them there.
Yeah, and a lot of this was off of the one thing that was the kryptonite of Dignitas Mirage's composition as well. A very strong Jinx, who does outrange all of your counter-engaged tools. And when you have to deal with Jinx on one side and a Diana in your face, it makes it so much harder to coordinate. We saw the relatively new roster of Dignitas Mirage really start to fall apart, and the experience that AOE have behind them really shining through. We'll see if they can continue that trend going into Game 2, because I have a feeling they will be happy with nothing less than a decisive performance. We'll find out once we get back from a very short break. Welcome back, folks. We return with a second game here at the Risen Champions League. AOE going up against Dignitas Mirage in the first day. And, well, it's already started out pretty convincingly, I'd say, Fury. The game looked calm for the first little while, but AOE really turned it on around that 20-minute mark to take down Dignitas Mirage.
Yeah, game definitely started out pretty slow, a little bit of poke back and forth from both teams, but as you said, AOE really pulling it together, coming in clutch, and winning out at almost every team fight that they had, and at least turning some around and making the most out of the ones that they started to lose. But getting right back into the draft here, a little bit of the same, a little bit different. AOE choosing to ban out that Varus, whereas we see Dignitas rightfully banning out that Viego.
Yeah, the Viego is definitely a big thorn in your side, but I'm interested in the fact that Karma gets grabbed first for AoE here. Normally when I see a Karma, I think that they're going to go for a carry in that bot lane or in that jungle, and often with AoE, it ends up being both in a weird way. But Lulu really puts a wrench in your plans when you go for one carry, because she has the polymorph, and it's a great pickup from Dig Mirage to at least make sure that AoE have to play this a little bit safely. They can't just ape at Dig.
Yeah, and both of those champions banned in the last game as well, where the Varus and Viego slots were Karma and Lulu. This time around, both teams getting to grab those up, which is strange because they were banned by the same teams that just picked them up. AoE banning Karma and picking Karma. Dig banning Lulu, picking Lulu. But we are seeing that Ezreal picked up, something we did not see in the last game that we thought may have shown his face with how prio he has been in pretty much every game that I've ever seen in the recent few weeks to the past couple of months or so, just because of how strong he is in lane. He has a lot of his own priorities, and just being able to scale up into the later game, being able to contest objectives from very far away, as you would with like a Jinx. But on the other side of that as well, the Tristana getting picked up from AoE is also another great pick.
Yeah, and the Tristana very specifically is great alongside that Karma. We were wondering which Bruiser jungler it would be. Looks like the Xin Zhao is the lock-in here. I really like it for AoE. Although in general, Xin Zhao does tend to underwhelm me a little bit. I'll be honest, Fury, and I hope that AoE can turn that around.
I will say, with Dig hovering the Olaf, I feel like both of those champions kind of fall off at around the same point. You know, both these champions really strong in the early game, have really great ganking presence, but the thing is their later games are not great, and we're seeing the Kha'Zix get picked up here. Oh man, that is a great pickup here. I'm loving that.
And this isn't just any Kha'Zix either. Somebody at Beatdown Boulevard, because this is Cyber's Kha'Zix. Yep. He's a heralded Kha'Zix player, somebody that can snowball your game absolutely out of control. And I haven't seen this guy pop off on the bug in a while, but if this is one of those games, it's going to look like she was completely on their other foot for this series, because Dignitas Mirage can smash if Kha'Zix gets ahead.
Yeah, we're talking about 129 games just this season alone with a 61% win rate, Cyber Kha'Zix. So I imagine we're going to see an incredible amount of displays from him coming through in this next game here. Now, it really is going to start to come down with what the rest of the team decides to pick for Dig and how they're going to play around him. On the Traverse side of that, AoE need to grab something that can counter that. They don't want to be spread too far apart. Now, I would like to see Dig maybe grab a Malphite, because that way it puts AoE on their toes. It makes it so that they can't stay grouped together to counter the Kha'Zix, but they also can't split too far apart from the Malphite, because then they just get picked off. So AoE, a little bit of a predicament here as the final bans come through. We see Darius, Sylas banned away, then Nautilus, Leona taken off the board, and Rakan picked up from Dig here. So the Lulu, I'm thinking, is that a mid lane Lulu coming through here?
It could be a top lane Lulu as well. It's hard to tell, but Rakan very unlikely to see the mid lane days that he's had in the past. Very much more support right now, and pairs nicely with Ezreal to create a safe lane with both champions being able to dash, buy space, and potentially even re-engage and dance around you. Alistar, though, says no dancing, and very specifically, Fizzy is an excellent Alistar and a great roaming support on this champion, because he's not playing for the lane here.
Yeah, you were telling me all about that earlier on as well, that Fizzy is just great on that Alistar, and now I understand why the Sylas was banned away. Makes perfect sense if you're looking to grab Alistar to ban Sylas out here, as AoE takes their final pick here in the Akali, and it looks like Dig just going to go back to the tried and true on this Gangplank pickup here.
Yeah, the Gangplank actually didn't look that bad last game in the lane. but it did struggle when it came to the mid game. And so I like the pivot away here, as I'm just going to kind of transition that point into the fact that they've now locked in Mordekaiser, because at least it gives you a few more options to frontline, where Gangplank felt like he wasn't really having an impact in the backline last time. Now you can at least sort of tank up for your team.
Yeah, picking Mordekaiser into what I imagine would have been, it's going to be a Kali top. So imagine if that was GP. He's not having fun top lane. He is going to be bullied out a lot by a Kali. But Mordekaiser has a little bit of a better time being more melee, has the shielding and the kit. And off the 3 auto attacks, of course, being able to get a lot more damage within the Akali Shroud as well. So Akali going to have not as great of a time as she would have against the GP. And Dig going to have a little bit of a better time up there now, as it's going to be a lot of skirmishing for sure, but I don't think it'll be as much killing as it would have been.
We'll see. I think we're definitely going to get a little bit more of a bloody game this time, whether it be in the lanes or in the jungle, because I look at this and I still see a composition where Dignitas Mirage actually have a decent amount of priority. I know the Karma could put a wrench in those plans in the solo lane, but if you can find a way to skirmish around this Kha'Zix, specifically using your solo lane Lulu or your Rakan on the roam, you can provide a lot to this champion that I just don't see an answer for in the early game, in the 2v2s, the 3v3s for AoE.
I'm not allowed to talk, I guess. I will say on the opposite side of that, RBM does play a lot of Kha'Zix if you're looking at his lineup as well. So hopefully, with this Kha'Zix being picked up by Cyber, RBM has enough knowledge of how Kha'Zix plays and what he's looking for in the early game to be able to counter him. So he'll have a good trajectory on where Cyber is going to be going, any ideas on what lane he's going to be jumping on, who's going to have better priority for his team. So RBM should have a better time playing into the Cyber rather than somebody who maybe just hasn't touched Kha'Zix before, if that makes sense. Because the more you play a champion, the easier it is to play against that champion.
Yeah, theoretically, Cyber isn't going to be able to run around RBM the entire game. That's kind of what we're getting at, right? It's not like RBM has no idea how Kha'Zix wants to play. Is completely unfamiliar with the champion. Here, we're expecting a little bit more of a big brain game, and when it does come to the big brain game, oftentimes things kind of start devolving into 5v5s, and that's what everybody's like, oh, I'm just gonna be so good. I'm just gonna be so safe I'm gonna be with my entire team, and we're just gonna NA ram the entire game. And in that specific scenario, I do see Xin Zhao providing a little bit more value, because Kha'Zix has a pretty high barrier to execution in the team fights to pick off somebody in the backline, but Xin Zhao kind of just gets to go in with his face, and that's his value done.
Right, and I mean, Xin Zhao, though, he's going to provide a lot of utility with, going invulnerable for a little bit. You do have Faisal, it looks like so far, on this Karma, who's going to be able to provide a lot of utility as well with the shielding. It'll be a lot harder for Cyber to put an execute onto anybody specifically if Faisal is going to be around. So look out for that when the team fight starts to ensue. We should kind of be focusing on where Cyber is during those fights, because that's really where you're going to see these explosions of damage come from, is him being able to jump onto the backline to try to pick out Sketch Dreams before he gets any of that utility on him.
Yeah, it feels like, is Cyber on top of you if your Sketch Dreams or Darkwings? Yes, you probably lose. Is he not? Have you wasted your mobility? Because if you've got your mobility, Cyber can also be kind of negated, and it's up to DNA in that mid lane to help mitigate a lot of that, because whether it's buffing up a front line to draw attention away from your Kha'Zix, or whether it's buffing up your Kha'Zix to make sure he lives that extra second, the margins are ever so thin in these mid-game fights where AoE very clearly will take them, even if it isn't in their favor, as we saw around the Dragon last time. You take enough fights that aren't in your favor here, and Cyber, he just starts 1v3ing.
Yeah, exactly, and Cyber is just insanely strong. We saw it in the last game. Even though they lost the game, Cyber still played the game incredibly well. It was just AoE just had the upper hand for sure during the entirety of the team fights, just being a little bit more cohesive for themselves. We'll be able to see if they are able to continue with that trend, or if now maybe Dig kind of just found them out. Maybe they just got a feel for them in game one, and they're the kind of team that learns from their mistakes in game number one, and they come back almost a completely different team in game number two. You see it a lot, especially in this kind of elo, where teams just kind of feel themselves out in game number one and game number two. They really start bringing out the strengths that they have. So that's what I'm looking for Dig in this game. I'm hoping to see a little bit of that come through for them. However, the other side of that, AOE may look to just continue on with the snowball they've kind of garnished from the first game going into this one.
Yeah, they've got a very similar comp as well. I know we've talked up Cyber on the Dignitas Mirage side, but it doesn't seem like AoE are really looking anywhere different. They've reinvested into Dark Wings here, giving him the Akali, something that can pop off, and the Tristana for sketch streams should also be able to play safe and bring an immense amount of damage in those team fights. So it's really those same two people that are being told that, you have to hold up our entire game plan here, very clearly can do it. So we'll see if Dignitas Mirage can take down AoE, or whether AoE can continue what has already been a great start to the day and start off Risen Champions League off right with a dominant performance. We'll find out right after the break. Welcome back to the Rift, ladies and gentlemen, for Game 2 of AOE versus Dignitas Mirage here on the first day of the Risen Champions League. It's been a big start for AOE, and certainly one that I think that they were gunning for, Fury, because, as we mentioned, this team has a lot to prove, and It's a great start for them, but here they have to finish it out.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, AOE, they came in gung-ho in game number 1, and they're definitely looking to continue on that trend into game number 2 here. And starting off strong is definitely the way you want to go, because from there on, like I was talking about earlier, you get kind of that snowball. You know, you're kind of feeling yourself after game number 1. Your mental's high after a nice, solid win, and you're kind of at the advantage a little bit with having, you know, just the higher mental going into game 2 here, as they look for a little bit of poke here around this pixel brush. But not going to find too much, and a little bit of a defensive ward on the red side here for Dig.
Now recall, of course, that this is something that Dig did really well in the early game of just last time, being able to track where AOE was and where RBM was specifically throughout that early game. This time, the defensive vision that you notice is, it sounds dumb, but definitely not offensive. And and I want to see that offensive vision specifically for Cyber, because Kha'Zix isn't about surviving, it's about thriving.
Right, exactly. He wants to know where his enemy is at all times to be able to just counter him, be able to be on the other side of the map, not get counter invaded, not get counter ganked. But either way, a defensive ward isn't the worst that you could go for there. Although on the other side of that, bot lane didn't really get any offensive wards, even with everybody being topside. So that's a little bit of a, maybe, I'm not necessarily calling it a misplay, but just kind of a missed opportunity.
And just a reminder as well, as we pan down towards that bot lane, we're pretty close to level 2. We keep our eyes on Fizzy's Alistar, especially as we approach not just level 2, but level 3 and 4, where supports do start roaming, because his Alistar's kind of nuts. Interestingly enough, though, we've taken a small transition and swapped our lanes around a little bit. Darkwings has gone into the top lane, and it's Faisal who's in that mid lane against Lulu.
Yeah, I was about to point that out as well. Darkwings has moved up into the top side, which is not a bad move here. Akali into this Mordekaiser. However, Dragoon is really getting the upper hand right away.
Yeah, it's not like explicitly a bad move, like Akali and Mordekaiser doesn't suck, but right now, you're definitely wishing that you had the lower damage matchup, because that's a lot from Dragoon, and you're actually pushed up pretty far as Faisal with no information on Cyber. He's got to play respectfully. They're letting Dragoon just give him a beating.
Yeah, if I'm on the side of AoE, I'm definitely preferring Faisal into Dragoon here. Just Karma being able to poke him out from a distance, not have to worry about getting too close and just getting chunked like Faisal is.
It's tough, because you definitely have some kill threat onto Dragoon as the Akali here, as opposed to Lulu, who you're realistically never going to kill, but it goes both ways, right? It's a double-edged sword, and definitely AoE taking a little bit of gamble early. It isn't going to hurt them right now, as both junglers are going for these full clears, both Scuttle Crabs already secured. Once again, it's Dignitas Mirage to get the information on RBM, and Cyber is still unspotted.
Yeah, Cyber still moving around, has that full clear going, is now on that bot side. Grump, while RBM going onto the bot side here, has those Raptors, is moving bot. We may see a full-on 3v3 if Cyber does decide to go for a trade. But all in all, just a little bit of poking, some sweeping coming through from RBM right now.
I like the sweeper because it recognizes that the lane is in a position where it's actually not that bad of a gank for Cyber, so Xin Zhao at least is ready to deal with that should it come down, because you will be able to delete the bug really early on. But Cyber's playing this very, very patiently, and paid off so far, because the rest of the lanes are doing just fine. Most notably, in that top side that we were talking about with Darkwings versus Dragoon, it's actually meant Darkwings that's been forced to back very early on.
Yeah, and even after that, I don't know if we saw that, if anybody pointed that out, but on that tri-brush there, even without the vision on RBM, Dig still know exactly where he is. Right when RBM was in that tri-brush, they were pinging him out right away. They knew, they backed off. They're playing this incredibly well, even while getting pushed in here by Sketch Dreams, which is to be noted that that's kind of what you expect from a Tristana. She is going to continue to push here. Nice little stopping of the back there by Light Pulse on Fizzy.
Yeah, desyncs Sketch Dreams and Fizzy, which is super important, because Fizzy is really famous for backing right now on the Alistar and just going topside. Just full sending it there. But with being a little bit desynchronized from Tristana, I wonder if it'll throw a wrench in their plans. Right now, it doesn't even seem like Fizzy can decide as he's roaming up that mid lane, seeing if he can make anything happen when the opportunity arises. But with Dragoon having backed, kind of feels like the opportunity's been lost to the wind.
Yeah, that's a little bit of a misstep there, but I'm liking the fact that Faisal is, excuse me, not Faisal, Darkwings is surviving in lane, but behind a little bit on the CS factor, but really what you're looking for is to survive up there, because if Dragoon is killing you on repeat, just on cooldown, making you blow all of your sums to try and survive, he's winning that lane. He's going to become the raid boss later on in the fight, but Darkwing's playing his time, being able to just survive. Akali, after an item or two, even without the advancement of levels and the quick influx of gold from kills, is still going to become an amazing driving force for AOE in the mid game. Sketchstream's a little bit of a pickle there, but able to just kind of fancy feed his way out.
I noticed, of course, that Fizzy is just not around on the Alistar here, just vibing in the river, making sure the vision is cleared, especially around this dragon, since it is AOE that are taking a beating in the top sides. It'd be real nice if they could get themselves a strong side bot to make a dragon play happen, get themselves that early Infernal. This time it's the same dragon we had last time, but Cyber's on his way in. Fizzy might just go down here, gets the knockup, it goes down for first blood. RBM is in as well. Sketchstreams actually hops for the kill here, wants to take down Cyber, but he's isolated. Ooh. He's gonna go down in the flash from RBM, just barely manages to answer this back with a double kill. Might get a triple here under the tower. Triple kill goes to RBM, and he salvages what looked disastrous for AOE.
RBM coming in clutch here, hitting level 6 in the middle of that fight after a very clean kill, and able to clean that all up, securing a very nice triple kill for himself. But that's going to put his team at a nice advantage here, not too much on the gold, because as we talked about, the CS advantage is a little bit on the side of Dig at the moment, but overall that keeps them in the running to at least stay even here with those kills. They trade 3 for 2, and if I'm AOE, you walk away with that all day.
Ooh, but now it's a full-on investment into RBM as well. Remember that going into the draft, we were thinking that this is a Darkwings game. This is a Sketchstreams game. And right now, Darkwings is suffering in lane. That doesn't seem to be stopping. And it's up to RBM to play the hero right now. And that's only if Darkwings can survive. If Dragoon doesn't become the raid boss, Darkwings can't even stay around up here.
Yeah, Darkwings has to walk away. Cyber, level 6, he's going to be able to jump on you, get a kill, get the reset, and jump right back out, not even worry about the dive. Faisal's going to have to come up top to stop that push. And, man, you're really seeing the disadvantage of this, but a nice fight in the bot side.
Oh, my lord. Almost getting away his light pulse, but it's not quite enough as that headbutt pulverize seals the deal, and Sketchstreams with the explosive charge really finishes it off. That was a great play from AOE, and exactly what they needed to get some sort of advantage back in the bot side.
What an incredible kill there from Sketchstreams. Just amazingly just fought off the back of that Fizzy initiation. You can't take away anything from Fizzy there. You talked about how great he is on this Alistar and is already showing 100% KP on top of the 100% KP from Sketchstreams here, maximizing the amount of gold that they have in their pockets. And this bot lane is already starting to scale.
Dragoon now on the receiving end of some hurt himself, seems to have turned the tables a little bit, and how they do be turning, because Faisal's rotated up there, and finally Darkwings has gone into the matchup that he's 99% sure he won't die in.
I'm so surprised they didn't do this right off the bat. I was really off the bat thinking, I'm really glad they didn't send the 2 utility laners against each other with Faisal and DNA, because Karma versus Lulu, nothing is happening in that lane. And then, like, Karma versus Mordekaiser, Akali versus Lulu, you win that all day, and you would rather have Akali in the mid lane, I think, just so she could prioritize moving down to Dragon or moving up. And here comes Sketch moving up.
I would just straight up rather have Fizzy in the mid lane because the guy is insane, finds yet another pick for his team, and that is going to be a kill piling on top of the Akali now. This is where the snowball starts, and it might be where Dignitas' journey ends. Fizzy, once again, gets a double knock-up, and it is only because of the safety, because of the dashes that Cyber and Light Pulse have, they're able to back off. They might not even be able to survive in their own jungle because RBM, he's right over there chasing down Cyber. Can they win this duel? Because it's becoming a sandwich right now. Charm comes in for Light Pulse, ice isolating the two of them. RBM might be in a little bit of trouble. He gets the backup from Sketchstream, though. Oh my lord, it's gonna be Cow going down. As I almost said Ninetales. It is Ninetales. It's also Cow. It's a really tough balance.
Yeah, we get confused. You know, you're looking at the name, but you know their name. Faisal getting ulted into the top lane here. No slow in action.
See, this is the dream, right? Is that Faisal just kind of sits
this is exactly
here,
what you want.
sits here,
If you're
hangs
Karma,
out against Dragoon.
you love that.
I mean, Dragoon actually still might get this kill. Good flash from Faisal. Nope. Last auto does it. Holy moly. That's the real suffering of the top lane into Karma.
Yeah, Karma, you love being in those tight cornered situations because now you don't have to worry about hitting minions with your Q, especially if it's Mantra. You have your W, you know, your Mordekaiser's just not going anywhere in his own death realm when you have the tether linked, and Faisal just walks out of there with a kill. You know, Dragoon had already flashed. Faisal saves his flash for exactly when he needs it and is able to finish him off. But let's talk a little bit more about that bot lane fight that started in the mid lane. Fizzy with these amazing initiations here, 0-2 and 5. Right now with these fights that have been going on, able to survive through that entire thing. And just an amazing turnaround again from RBM, 3-0 and 1 on him. Still having a successful lead over Cyber. The only difference is they were managed to Dig, speaking of they, were managed to pick up that Infernal Drake even through it all. But I feel like at this point it was more of a takeaway from AOE. I feel like AOE with that Infernal Drake right now, we're just going to scale incredibly quickly through this early game. Dig taking it away, they're not really winning on these fights, but it at least takes it off the board from AOE.
Notice, of course, Faisal in the top lane getting ganked right now. Actually gets Cyber's flash as RBM comes in for the counter. The Shiralea's really buying the space for Faisal to turn that around. And now able to pump up RBM under the tower. Should be able to get out of here as well with a little bit of extra shielding in his pocket. The Xin Zhao popping off right now, and Darkwing's coming up to support Cyber. He might just go down, and they're bullying the Kazakhs. The Darkwings almost goes down. RBM gonna fall.
Oh my god, RBM tried to set up the perfect execution for Darkwings to finish off the kill.
A little bit of miscommunication there. It looks like it's happening all across the Rift as well. AOE, I don't want to say they're falling apart, but you know what? I would forgive you for using that word because it definitely looks a little bit awkward right now. Gonna back off in the top lane, just barely. With that Arcane Barrage not landing, will be Darkwings able to survive, so it's a little sketchy. I'll be honest. It might turn around though. Dragoon. He does have that ultimate available to him. There it is, onto Darkwings. Gonna be able to dodge out for now, but Faisal can't help you in here. Goes back in for the kill, flashes away. One auto away is Dragoon, and Faisal should be able to pick this up right out of the death realm with the Q. It looks easy for AOE right there. But things only get harder because Cyber, he comes right back. Shiralea's again, but it might just be feeding 2 kills into Cyber. Both just walk into melee range there, and the Kazakh starts to get rolling. 5 and 1 now, a Serpent's Fang complete. This is really a crazy game because we got a Fed Tristan, we got a Fed Xin Zhao, we got a pumped up Karma, but on all of that, nothing can hold a candle to the 5 and 1 Kazakhs.
I wish I had any idea of what I was watching. This all started up in the top lane there, where I was about to say Darkwings couldn't really find that perfect execution because he would have been followed off and executed rightfully by the tower going on to Cyber. Really big meme, RBM trying to take a tower shot just so Darkwings can finish off the kill. As we get a pause, we can kind of go break down what we just talked about here. Darkwings wasn't really on it to find the perfect execution for him, and RBM dying to the tower. And then up in the top is just Faisal and Darkwings and everybody trying to contest against Dragoon and Cyber, and I think everybody all in all was able to respawn twice before that fight finally really stopped.
Yeah, and I don't want to say that this is a tactical pause, but if it was, I wouldn't be upset because AOE definitely need to take a breather right now, figure out what has gone wrong and where they're desynced. Busy? They can definitely sync up around him if they want to, but Sketchstreams gets a little bit chunked out as well. Screen freezes for me at least, so I'm gonna have to wait to see how this plays out. But this look great for Sketchstreams, and it's another play from AOE that's looking like it's a little bit past what they can handle right now.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's just that client bug that comes when a team pauses the game. It'll freeze, it'll fix itself, and right there we go. We get the unpause. Sketchstream blows up Cow there, which I didn't think was going to happen. I thought Sketchstream was going to fall.
I'll be the first to admit I'm eating my words a little bit here. That was actually a very convincing play right there at the end, despite Sketchstream's low health bar. Didn't really look like Cow had anything to say about it, and as we pan back up to the top side, we're getting even more skirmishing where Mordekaiser is in his trademarked Suffering Kingdom.
Yeah, Sketchstreams is big right now, which really helps his team come forward, especially with RBM being as big as he is, and Faisal, not necessarily being fed, but is 20 CS up over Dragoon, has that Shirelia's finished, is currently still working on items at the moment, but it looks good for them until Cyber jumps onto Sketchstreams. Cyber being 5-1 is basically at that one-shot potential if Fizzy is not there to push him off, if Faisal is not there to buff up Sketchstream before that happens. So it's a little bit of a predicament for AOE at this point. They just need to be careful. Like you talked about earlier, that tactical pause, if that's what you want to call it, really needs to put them through that. Cyber doesn't just blow them up. Like he's looking to go.
Double teleport in the bot lane, and Fizzy gets the double knockup as well. Cyber, he may just be stalled out of here, and Faisal coming down should be able to help them take down the big bug. Sketchstreams looks for the final auto, gets the big shot down, and now gets to vault forward onto Cow, who barely escapes over the wall, if only for now. AOE, they make the big plays to come back there, and it's off the back of Dignitas Mirage, this time being the ones to overestimate themselves.
Yeah, that is exactly what we're looking for if you are AOE, and it looks like they're going to continue to look for it in the bot lane here. Cow.
Nice escape. Good escape.
What a great arcane shift over the wall there.
Cow's actually kind of clean, but he still does lose his bot lane tower, and you're not losing more as Mirage because Cow was actually able to escape, but it certainly doesn't feel good to have what just went down happen to you, because you couldn't even get an advantage on the top side. We saw RBM dealing with Dragoon there, and it's an all AoE play that comes out there, now with a 3k gold lead.
Yeah, that was really big for AoE, because right as I was talking about Cyber nearing that one-shot potential onto Sketchstreams, we see how strong Faisal is getting down there with Fizzy to support around Sketch, and Sketch lived pretty healthily as well. It really wasn't very close to dying. I'm sure one more isolated Q from Cyber would have brought him incredibly low, if not close to death. But overall, that's just not what happened. They turned it around extremely quickly. Mid lane here, though. Damn, DNA forced a wild growth himself just to stay alive.
This is actually a really good force right now, because as much as you don't have objectives to play for, which is normally when you're looking for ults to be forced out, the fact that Lulu doesn't have the ability to pump up Cyber's survivability means that essentially Dig have a much harder time winning the team fight because he's their whole team right now.
Yeah, exactly. That's not what you want. You know, we see it a lot, even in other elos, is like, this team, they're very close in health, and this team, you know, these guys are really strong, their jungler's fed, but then you look at Dig, their jungler is fed, yes, but look at the rest of the lanes. No winning lanes at all. Mid lane went a little bit even when it was against Faisal and not Darkwings, but as soon as Darkwings made his way back to mid, that changed completely. Darkwings really started bullying DNA, which is what we wanted to see in the earlier game. I'm still a little bit confused at the rotation that they originally started off with, but I'm glad they started to feel exactly where they should be going when it came to the fights. And Fizzy,
oh, they didn't see Fizzy either. The triple knockup is going to come in, but RBM might be a little bit too low. Goes back in there and buys crucial time for Sketchstreams over the wall to be laying down the hurt. Now put into the death realm, humps back over onto Dragoon, but doesn't look like he's going to be able to take him down in time. Instead, flashes away, and it's going to fall to a big shutdown going over to Cyber. Dignitas Mirage, they make the proactive play, the brush camp there, and find AoE at their weakest.
They find a very good play for themselves. I mean, right there, it was a nice Hex Flash over the wall by Fizzy into the bush, so they didn't see it coming. RBM initiated the fight, but Dig were able to turn that fight on its heads, and even though they are down in gold, they're starting to pull themselves into this game. You know, it's 3 towers to 0, but they have control over these neutral objectives. They have both of the dragons that have been on the board so far. This next one will be up in a minute. We have that Ocean Soul coming through, which will be really good for the likes of Dragoon and DNA for that healing built in. We'll have to see exactly what it comes down to if AoE is going to start contesting these dragons, because that has really, really excelled in the last game, and I'd like to see them move forward with that in this game as well.
And just worth pointing out here as well that Dig for all that they may be behind, for all that they may not have the damage, they're incredibly hard to lock down and incredibly hard to kill. There's a lot of mobility or sort of drain tankiness in the case of Mordecai that this squad has, and with all of the gold that AOE have, with all of the gold on their main carries even, without Fizzy able to actually lock down one member or Darkwing's able to hard commit for the finish off, you can't take a fight because there's no way to actually finish off the one person, and it sort of snowballs on you. Dignitas Mirage, they get to stay 5 members strong the entire time, and they're 5 members strong pushing in the mid lane right now.
Yeah, what I really like as well, never mind, we're going to start a fight off immediately.
Yeah, this is going to be the determiner of who gets the next dragon. Darkwings does go into the back lane, does pick off one, and Faisal's just barely surviving. But crucially, Sketchstreams has gone down. It's all on the back of RBM and Darkwings to clean this up, and it's going to be Cow who takes down one of the carries. RBM now having to run for his life, and Faisal doing the same here. Going to be finished off by Light Pulse. RBM and Fizzy, can they stand against the world? It looks like the answer is no, as Fizzy peels for his jungler, tries to get back onto the tower, and it's still going to be picking up a kill for Dig Mirage. Even another one as they go into the tower for another kill onto RBM. An ace comes in for Dig Mirage, and they're going to put themselves on soul point.
Massive for Dig Mirage there was that fight, and right before it started, I wanted to point out Light Pulse is on this Rakan. The quickness against every member of AOE is huge because you have Sketchstreams, you have Darkwings who rely a lot on their mobility to make it through these fights. Once the quickness comes through and lands those charms, Darkwings and Sketchstreams are sitting ducks for the entire amount of time that they're charmed, and that just lets Cyber and Cow run over them with that damage, and that's exactly what happened right off of the beginning of that fight. They were picked off immediately, leaving RBM, Faisal, and Fizzy to just try to go with what they could and maybe pick off some exit frags there, but that is not what it came down to, as Fizzy potentially getting picked up by Cyber here.
Look at all the damage that comes down as well. Good pulverize will keep Fizzy safe, but not too safe for too long. Rift Herald gonna get dropped in what looks to be this mid lane right now, and Dig Mirage should be able to counter this with full knowledge of what's going on. The only thing that AOE really get to gain off this is a little bit of free time for Darkwings, and you gotta hope that's enough.
Yeah, it's definitely not going to get a charge off, that's for sure. No mid lane tower for this Rift attack. I want to point out, however, that AOE Randoms actually won 2-0 over Supernova tonight, so looks like the main area of Effect team have some, big shoes to follow here, as AOER took that out.
I mean, I don't want to rub salt in the wound, but, if you've been outdone by them once before, you can't really let them go 2-0 today and have you not. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like Darkwings is going to have much to say about it, as the Goon Squad completely claps him there, and the double support on top of a fed Kha'Zix looking pretty good.
Yeah, they are absolutely running through AOE at this point now, and they're looking to run through this Baron as the TP channel from Dragoon is going to jump right onto that. They're going to start chunking this out immediately. However, TP followed from Faisal, I believe, coming through as well. The only person not there is Darkwings as this fight starts to open up.
I don't know if AOE can fight this, and I don't think they do either, but they're going to find out because RBM gets engaged on, goes into the front line, and isn't down just yet, but Darkwings can't come back. RBM recommits on this ins out, going so low but not down just yet, finally gets taken out, but a 3-man knockup from Fizzy could turn the entire fight. Dragoon is going to fall, and with Sketchstreams coming in from the side, and Faisal playing hero, it looks like we're getting an AOE Baron.
Yeah, and a shutdown from Cow on the exit, however, before he falls, able to take out Faisal. They're not going to go for the Baron quite yet. A little bit of a Pyrrhic victory, as it was a 3-for-4 there. DNA, the only one left alive. However, Sketchstreams is able to absolutely destroy these objectives here, these structures. Mid lane tower going to fall. He's going to move up to red and potentially look for this top tower as well to take. And I don't really believe they can go after a Baron just yet, but overall, a very nice turnaround fight for AOE.
It was necessary, and it was, I'll say, miraculous, Fury, because that didn't look like a fight that AOE should be able to win. But they ended up showing me that they've got some sustain as well. RBM very clearly difficult to kill, buys so much time for the squad with the help of Faisal, and Fizzy landing that triple knockup really does seal the deal. Yeah,
they started that fight off 4v5, which is not what you want with Darkwings still being 17 seconds on that death timer there, but they held out enough time for him to come back up, TP back in, and really get that fight going. But overall, AOE kind of won that fight before Darkwings was even in the fray with the help of Sketch Dreams and Fizzy landing amazing knockups. Faisal, however, goodbye, my friend.
Woohoo! That is a sad time to be a Karma there, just trying to take the cheeky back. Cyber should be able to get away, and it's a free pick that goes into the pockets of Dig Mirage. Another one for Cyber. Now 10 kills on the board for him. This is the Kha'Zix pop-off story that we were all looking forward to going into the second game.
Yeah, he's really big, and the main issue now for AOE, we were talking about it earlier, with most of the gold being on Cyber, the rest of Dig didn't really have much damage, itemization, nothing to fall back on if Cyber started getting picked off. Now at this point, look at the rest of Dig. You're seeing 1, 2, and 9 on DNA with this Lulu. A lot of utility built into her. Cal really starting to get up there with the items. Now has that Glacial Shroud finished. Going for what I believe is going to be that Frostfire Gauntlet next, but has Divine Sunderer and Muramana finished. And then, of course, you have Light Pulse, 1, 4, and 15 with the items. And, of course, that quickness that comes through in those fights that we were talking about earlier that is massive just to turn around an entire fight.
RBM getting chunked out there right before the Dragon as well, does manage to heal up a little bit, but it's worth noting that they have to win this fight. AOE need to find the picks here, not get taken apart by Cyber, because this is the fight for Ocean Soul. Fizzy sees the engage, goes for it, lands the knockup on DNA, but it lets Cyber sit in the front line here, finally jumping back to safety and right on top of his Inzao. RBM going to go golden for now, buying a lot of time, and Darkwings is cleaning up one kill after another. Faisal finally gets taken out, and the sustain is gone for AOE, but they trade 1 for 1 right now. Cyber is still alive, and the Arcane Barrage is going to find Darkwings. Fizzy so low, Sketch Dreams barely gets out there, stopwatches in the brush and will fall. This should be Dragon going to Dig Mirage.
And not only Dragon, but the Ocean Soul over to Dig Mirage, which is massive. And I have to ask, at the end of Sketch Dreams, where were you going, my friend? There was no way you thought you were getting out of that fight alive. Not going through the river there, but a little bit of a turnaround from Dig from that fight means that they can set their sights onto this Baron with the help of that Ocean Soul, and they're moving right towards it.
Oh, it's going to be so hard to win the fights now. I mean, it was already a nearly impossible task to finish off kills. You saw 3 people on top of Cyber, and he was still able to escape on this pseudo-bruiser Kha'Zix build that he's gone for with the Gore Drinker, the Black Cleaver, and the Serpent's Fang to finish it all up. Very clearly doing huge damage, not only to champions, but to the Baron as well, as Dig Mirage are going to pick that one up, rocket themselves to a gold lead.
Yeah, this is not going to be a Baron that AOE can contest. Dig gonna go ahead and grab that up virtually for free. So now Dig have pulled a reverse Uno card on AOE. They said you had control over all the neutral objectives last game. We're gonna have control over all of the neutral objectives this game, barring that one Rift Herald that was picked up earlier by AOE. Dig looking incredibly strong in this game. However, it's still really close. It's still 4 turrets to 0, but 4 dragons to Dig. They're still 4 kills up, but they are only about 700 gold up.
We do have a little bit of a freeze on the screen right now, so we'll be taking a chill pill here as I sit down for the first time this game just to reorient myself. Coming out of this, though, AOE's chances are really limited in a way that we haven't seen for the majority of the game. From the triple kill in bot lane on RBM to Cyber actually getting ahead. It seemed like this was 50-50 for most of it, but that last team fight really did seal the deal. And now with the Ocean Dragon, the only hope that I can really see, Fury, is that you manage to stall out, you manage to get your Grievous Wounds, and hopefully take an Elder.
Right, AOE really needs to find themselves back into this game in a way that just completely turns it back on its head for them, because right now it is all coming up Dignitas. They're running through top, they're running through mid with the help of this Baron buff that they have now, and if they're not careful, AOE will end up falling within the next couple of minutes. What they need to look for is turtling a little bit and finding a positive team fight that will get them back into this game.
We'll see if they can do it. It's a tall order as they are hemorrhaging towers right now, but crucially, without the base being broken, they can't actually finish off the game, and they don't have the best, they don't have the best dive. AOE actually are pretty comfortable, under their own towers right now, and those Baron minions are doing work. It really comes down to, can you fight in areas where Cyber can pop off? Because he is your team right now. With 11 of your 24 kills, almost half of them right now. The guy is your one ticket to being able to enter that base without a Baron, without any miraculous team fights going your way inside a dive, which really just doesn't seem possible.
Yeah, AOE are in a situation now where they definitely don't want to fight in these open areas, because if anybody strays too far from each other, Cyber's going to jump into the back. He's going to blow you up instantly. And you're kind of 50-50 in a choke, where you kind of want to fight where you're not zoned out by the Kazakhs being isolated. But at the same time, Light Pulse with that quickness in a choke is great for them. But then Fizzy is able to land, you know, those 3-4-man knockups that we've been seeing all game.
And that's the really scary thing, right? The X factor in these team fights that's been turning most of them. Fizzy, though, if he gets caught out, could be more of a risk or more of a liability to AOE. So he needs to play this one really careful. Third tier 2 is going to fall here, cleaned up by the remainder of Dignitas Mirage. Well, we posture around it. I do want to point out that Chemtech Putrefier has been grabbed for Faisal in the top lane, and it's a really good pickup on the Karma here to allow everyone access to those grievous wounds once they have shielding, once they've got a little bit of healing that can come through.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially with the AoE that Faisal is going to be providing, you know, a lot of that grievous wounds is going to help be able to take out Dragoon, who we haven't really seen die. And now with that, the Rylai's on top of the Demon, you're not going to have a whole lot of dying on the side of Dragoon, especially with the 8 stacks that he has on that Dark Seal as well. Really becoming steps closer to the raid boss that Mordekaiser wants to become this late in the game, being level 16. It'd be really hard to take him out. That's really the timeline that AoE is on, is they want to try to find either this Elder Drake or they want to try to find the next Baron. I think primarily they want to go for Elder, but that doesn't help too much when you're not really getting anybody on Dig's side very low for that execution.
No, it is a ridiculously tall order right now, because like you say, you can't even really make full use of it. We've still got a minute to the objective though, and I like the way Dignitas Mirage are playing around that knowledge. They know as well as we do that the Elder Dragon is AoE's one way back into the game, and so they're playing this slow, making AoE come to them in the fog of war to try and have the best odds of winning this team fight and getting themselves that game-ending objective.
Yeah, and I really don't like the positioning here from AoE. They're way too split up here.
Yeah, Fizzy on the side does have the Unbreakable Will, so actually gets himself in a decent position, but with Dragoon being that raid boss in the front line, I mean, look at how much, and I say 0 damage, is being dealt to him. Finally, Cyber gets access to that backline, gets bumped out by Fizzy in the flash as well, but it's still going to be AoE going down, losing a member right there in Sketch Dreams. He might just follow up, goes aggressive onto Dragoon though, and it's the one pick back. Cyber still full health, and as we look at that, the rest of Dignitas comes in at full health as well. No hope for the members of AoE here, as shutdown after shutdown comes in, and they will be cleansed from the rift in a massive ace coming through for Dignitas Mirage.
Yeah, that was huge for them. Now at this point, they really don't even need to look for the Elder Drake. They can potentially just look for the end of the game here, with the death timers being as long as they are. Fizzy going to be the first one up with how long ago he died. You know, these 45-second death timers. He's just now coming up. You've got 30 seconds left on everybody else. Dignitas put in work in that fight, and this is what happens when, you know, you don't have the full control over these neutral objectives, when you maybe take a few bad fights. Is Dig work with the mistakes from last game? And we talked about it. They turned those mistakes into their own advantages, and they're going to walk into game number 2 and bring us into a game 3.
Yeah, this is a ridiculously good performance back for Dignitas Mirage. They will not go quietly into the night. This is not the Mirage that you've seen before. This is them with the full power of Cyber at their backs, and they are not going down in game 2. We're going to a game 3, ladies and gents.
Yeah, an incredibly hype game 3 as well. A very one-sided game 1, a very one-sided game 2 on the other side of that, with Dig absolutely running away with it. They like I said, completely different team. They came out, they controlled every single objective. They won pretty much every team fight, barring the first couple in the beginning with RBM being down to the bot side and picking up that triple kill. But they looked very clean this game.
I genuinely wonder if after this you just ban this Kha'Zix, because that was the big difference maker here for Dignitas Mirage. They played around Cyber, they played super well, and Cyber, he gave back to them in spades, winning them that game. We'll see if AOE can figure out some way to counter that, or if they're going to fall to what looks like a very new, revamped, and ready to take you on Dignitas Mirage. We'll find out right after this.
So hold our heads up high and beat the drum to what we love. Risk the fall, oh, we have felt it all come crashing down from far above. Stars are rising, countless worlds colliding, only one will take it all. Can we bring to fall the giants? Can we make the final call? We are the ones to ignite the darkened skies, the champions of a world that we defy. A solar ray of the few who rise up high, and we all fight at the last strike. Hearing voices from afar, join the madness when the curtain falls. Risk it all, hold nothing back. Seize the day, we must attack. Stars are rising, countless worlds colliding, only one will take it all. Can we bring to fall the giants? Can we make the final call? We are the ones to ignite the darkened skies, the champions of a world that we defy. A solar ray of the few who rise up high, and we all fight at the last strike. Can we bring to fall the giants? 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 We are the ones to ignite the darkened skies, the champions of a world that we defy. A solar ray of the few who rise up high, and we all fight at the last strike.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the third game of the day. All of you Risen Esports Raiders, welcome to what has been a very exciting series so far. Fury, after AOE took game one in convincing fashion, Dignitas Mirage turned it around on them with the Kazakhs, and interestingly enough, in this draft, AOE have left that Kazakhs up.
Yeah, I feel like maybe they think the Kazakhs wasn't the issue, although Kazakhs was a main factor in their loss for sure. I think it was really just a lot of things that were broken down on AOE's side that Dig managed to take advantage of, which threw them into the lead in that last game very early to where they could scale through it into the very end of it. Kazakhs left up, Seraphine left up as well, and we are going to see her grabbed up in that first pick by Dignitas.
The smart pickup right there with the Lulu as well, because you know that Dig are going to take the Lulu if you don't. We've seen it before already. The other thing that, of course, is up for Dig is the Varus that was banned away by AOE in the in the second game, and they're not going to go for it here. Instead, deciding that Cow on that Ezreal was the big difference maker, or rather, something that they'd like to keep as a secondary win condition, because he did look really good.
Yeah, for sure. He looked very solid on that Ezreal. Put out a lot of damage, as you would normally see on an Ezreal. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a Tristana come out for Sketch yet again, who absolutely popped off in that last game. But no, they're going to escalate this with the Lulu Kog'Maw, I imagine, into the bot lane here.
The gauntlet has been thrown because you are asking for an assassin right now. AOE, they've shown their cards. You know that they have this backline that should be easily diveable, with the exception of that Lulu, and Dignitas Mirage are going to have to pull off a magical feat be able to find their purchase onto this slippery little insectoid thing, with the Renekton locked in, expected to be going into the top side. I think we've seen it in the mid lane as well, but I'm hoping that Faisal takes this. AOE actually have a pretty beefy front line as well, and I like what they're getting.
Yeah, AOE with that Renekton, a very solid blind pick for sure, but Dig, they're hovering this Kha'Zix. Will they actually lock it in is the big question, and they do. Dig looking to make AOE pay for not banning out that Kha'Zix.
I like this a lot, because the Kha'Zix, despite the fact that you have a Lulu on the other side, despite the fact that he can be stuffed, isn't actually that bad here, because remember, the thing that tore AoE apart last time was Charms and was CC from that Rakan, allowing Cyber the opportunity to run around the entire team. This time you got a Seraphine, even more charm, even more team fight potential. Dignitas Mirage, they want to go toe-to-toe with AoE. Despite that gauntlet, they throw it right back.
Yeah, Dig goes just as hard with that Seraphine, which we talk about it all the time, that Seraphine ultimates turn the tides of any team fight as long as they're landing. And I can't imagine we're going to see too many of those go wide, as Sion and Malphite getting banned out here from Dig. Definitely target focusing that top side / mid, depending on where you're going and depending on where this Renekton is going of AoE.
Yeah, I want to know that as well, because the flexibility here actually could screw over Dignitas Mirage if they're not super careful. I almost said Dig Mig, and it just doesn't sound right. It sounds like a
it sounds weird.
Yeah, it does. I don't know. There's something about it here. AoE though are denying the gangplank for now, and that Rakan that we talked about last time, respecting the fact that the Seraphine can be flexed in the mid lane. I don't actually hate this ban.
No, definitely not. Rakan was an amazing pick in the last game, which flipped team fights around insanely with the help of that quickness. That being taken off the board, like you said, Seraphine can be thrown into the mid lane, as can Lulu. Lulu can even go top lane, as we saw in the last game as well, with the kind of flexes around that we saw. But Ornn going to get picked up. I mean, I think we kind of have an idea of where he's going.
We're going to go full team fight, gentlemen? Because that's what it's looking like right now. This is not the Mordekaiser that we saw last time, so Dignitas Mirage not going to have the same level of damage, but definitely a higher level of crowd control. And if we look at AoE, they need some themselves, because there's no initiation right now from this roster. It is all absorbing aggression from Dignitas Mirage, and I don't know if that's the best game plan. They're going to go with the Sylas that gives you the option to take away the Seraphine and Ornn ults. Will it be enough?
Yeah, I mean, I always say that if there's a Seraphine on the other team and you pick Sylas, there are now 2 Seraphines in the because all that matters in her kit is the R. Sure, she's got some poke, but that R is really what turns everything around. If Sylas has that, though, he could definitely use that to his advantage, especially into the Ornn if that Ornn Horde starts to channel, as Sejuani gets hovered here. A couple members of the Freljord getting picked up for AoE.
I like this a lot. It is even more appeal, even more attention being given now to sketch streams, and you gotta feel pretty good, right? Your team trusts you very clearly as AoE sketch streams to carry them to victory, because this game isn't about what we're expecting to be Darkwings on the Sylas. It isn't about what we're expecting to be Faisal and the Renekton. No matter what happens, it's sketch streams that has to succeed, and he's shown that he can do it in the past 2 games. It's just going to be very difficult when you're going into an Ezreal, who's hard to lane into, a Kha'Zix, who wants to kill you, and a Cassiopeia, who's going to melt your front line.
Yeah, Cassiopeia looking to just burn down any kind of frontline that comes through. Obviously, Seraphine and Ornn are there to help do that job, but Cass is going to be a massive factor in doing that. However, on the side of AoE, like you talked about, it's literally just defend the Cogmaw. Let Sketch Dreams get big, let him carry you to victory. Problem with that is if we see this Kha'Zix get big on Cyber again, it's going to be very hard to continue on with that trend because Cogmaw doesn't have a whole lot of movement in his kit.
No, this is all about the Fizzy Sketch Dreams combination right now. It's the only thing that can keep Sketch Dreams alive, actually, and I'm used to seeing Fizzy on the Initiators. We were calling him out on the Alistair last game as being the constant thing that was pushing the pace of the game, finding the team fights for AoE. Now, the onus has really shifted into RBM, who, yes, I've seen him find good Diana ults, but to be able to control a team fight on a Sejuani takes a completely different skill set. And remember, you're playing for Sketch Streams. You're not playing for yourself in the same way as you are on the Diana.
Right, exactly. Diana, you're looking to get into the middle of a group of people, hit that R button, get that Moonfall onto as many members as you can to get everybody to start off on a fight. Sejuani, you've kind of got to play your pace a little bit slower. You have to really pick and choose when you use that ultimate, when you go in, when you use those knockups, when you know to go in or when you know to move back. Because if Kha'Zix gets behind you, there's really no tank there to stop the Kha'Zix from getting onto Sketch Streams on this Cogmaw. So it really comes down to RBM making sure they know their positioning, making sure that everybody is forming as a cohesive unit to really put the nail in the coffin of this series so that Sketch Dreams can show the potential of this Cogmaw with the Lulu.
Now, we've talked a lot about the team fights, right? But I think that the best way to sum it up, and it's sort of a disservice to ourselves, is team fights are hard. Team fights are going to be really, really tough here.
Yep.
But the other thing that's been a big determinant of the game outside of team fights, what we've definitely noticed is that the Dragons have been really prioritized by both squads, specifically Dignitas Mirage, who do tend to favor that first Drake a little bit more. With this composition, I actually don't feel like they have the same level of priority as they have in previous games to actually get that first, second dragon and snowball themselves to victory.
Right, especially if that Ornhorn is down, the main thing that's going to turn around a fight for them is going to be either the Cassiopeia or the Seraphine ultimate. Other than that, AoE has a better kind of formation that can develop around a dragon with the Silas, with the Renekton Sejuani, kind of forming a barrier around the pit while Cogmaw and Lulu do the damage that they can to not only Dignitas but also the dragon. And if an ensuing fight comes about, looking at the teams themselves, AoE should have a little bit of an upper hand as long as they kind of bait out Dignitas. If all ultimates are up on both sides, Dignitas has an upper hand for sure. But AoE, if they're able to either steal a nice ultimate with the Silas with either an Ornhorn or an Encore from Seraphine, it is completely in their hands.
It's as long as you can control the team fight, really, that it seems like AoE will thrive. But the thing that I'm a little bit worried about is the glimpse of the scattered AoE that we got in Game 2 around that 15-minute mark, despite the fact that they had a lot to work with in terms of gold, kills, map priority. They were kind of running it down at one point there, seeming like they were just disjointed. RBM was making totally different calls to what Darkwings was. Fizzy and Sketch Streams couldn't seem to coordinate on that bot side, and it was for a minute, maybe a minute 30. It was this much of the game in what went on to be a 30, almost 40-minute game. But it turned the entire thing around because it let Dignitas Mirage get a foothold back in. And now, with that foothold, very clearly, Dignitas can snowball in a lot bigger of a way. And AoE, if even one thing falls apart, are going to be punished so much harder than they were last time. So to say that I'm worried is a little bit of an understatement because AoE find themselves at a point where they have to kind of play Superman, do everything perfectly when it comes to these high pressure situations. And I didn't see them do that last game.
No, and as we talked about, Dig really took advantage of the misplay from AoE and what was essentially a blink and you'd miss it misplay on AoE's part. Dignitas took that, flipped it, got a small lead. It was maybe 300 to 500 of a gold lead to begin with, but it started snowballing, and off the back of that one misplay, AoE made another one, and then Dig made great play after great play, and that is what you want to see in a team. They took from their loss in Game 1, took all those misplays in Game 2, flipped it on its head, and now they're going into Game 3. They've got to be feeling great after that previous game, because they kind of know now who their opponent is after 2 games. They have a really good feel for them and how they want to play the game. And Dignitas definitely now know how they want to play this game. And it's got to be the exact same way they did it in the last one.
Absolutely, and the people that have changed things up really are AOE, and it's not just in the bot lane either, because I've got questions about Faisal's Renekton. I've seen this pick before, and I'll be honest, Fury, I didn't see it win before, because Faisal's really, really good at playing weak side, but when he has to play strong side, when the pressure is on him, sometimes it just becomes a little bit too much, and you can't actually execute. You end up playing a weak side Renekton. That's not what you want. It is there are a lot of questions around AOE going into this last game of the day, but the one thing that I'm not questioning is their commitment to the cause, because they want to start this off strong. They want to get off on the right foot in the Risen Champions League. Let's see if they could do it once we return from a break. Right. We return to the Rift Fury for the third time today. The only stream in all of Risen Champions League that has gone the distance here to that third game, to what is the nice edge of any series where either team could take it home right now. AOE going up against Dig Mirage. I have no idea who's going to win this.
Yeah, and just as you say that, we just get word that 100X went the distance with WCB. And
okay, there we go. The second stream.
The second stream now to go the full distance here, and I'm sure this is going to be an absolute slaughter fest because game 1, very heavily in AOE's field. Game 2, very heavily in Dig's field. You gotta imagine the game number 3 is going to be the balance between the two, and I'm sure we'll see a complete different both teams here for number 3, as I'm sure it'll be completely even the whole way through. I could eat my whole words. Which I have no problem with that. It's just caster's curse, you know?
Exactly. It really do be like that. You say one thing, they show us another. The thing that I'm going to say right now, and I'll be happy, of course, to be wrong, but I'm expecting it to be true, like by an 80 to 90% confidence interval, is there are 2 people here that we need to watch. Because if the kill numbers are going up on Kog'Maw or on Kha'Zix, that's a pretty large indicator of who's gonna win. Those 2 are the win cons for their respective squads. Sketchstreams needs to get these kills, needs to be relevant on Kog'Maw, and Cyber, on the other hand, needs to be ready to delete him.
And that was the problem in the last game, though, is that Sketchstreams was very ahead. The problem was that Cyber was also very ahead himself, and I guess just more so. So even with Sketchstreams being up there, being an absolute powerhouse for AOE, Cyber just seems to be just more on the grid. And the bot lane right now is going insane. Yeah, just a little bit, just a few kills in his belt, just hitting those double digits, you know. Cyber was huge last game, so once he gets that ball rolling, it's very hard to stop it.
Yeah, ooh, a little nice trade in the bot lane, though, does give me a little bit of hope, because Sketchstreams definitely not irrelevant on the damage right now, even though he is level 1. We'll keep an eye on these junglers, though, as AOE certainly have their eye on Cyber with an aggressive ward, spotting where he's starting, which is a big difference from just last game, where information was completely denied to AOE until like the 7-minute mark. Now they've got a little bit of proactive information on what Cyber's up to.
Right, game was pretty defensive early on with those wards on both sides even. However, we saw it in the last one. Dig really had RBM on a map because they pinged him out everywhere that he was, even without any vision on the board. Dig M just know exactly what they're looking for, and they know how to track the junglers, which is really big on a team. But over on the top side here, we're seeing RBM get some more heavy warding in. Up on the top side, even though it is cleared out, Cyber is on the bot at the moment. It looks like they will be trading Scuttle. Top side for AOE, bot side for Dig M, as Darkwings and DNA just continue the trade, and Abscond Abduct going the opposite direction for Darkwings.
Yeah, it doesn't actually want to go in on DNA right now. It's a pretty strong Cassiopeia, and they know that Cyber is in a good spot to rotate right now, whereas RBM chose to take that reset alongside Faisal in the top lane. The Renekton actually backing for the Cull here is an interesting move, trying to use that cheater recall to stay ahead of the Ornn, who otherwise can build items in the lane and will start to catch up to you and even surpass you slowly but surely.
Right, exactly. You want to be able to continue to push in Dragoon, make sure you get a decent wave set up for yourself, because if not, like you said, Dragoon is going to be able to chill, sit back, farm, and just continue to make items in the wave that you're trying to push, and Faisal is not going to really be able to garnish any kind of upper hand. However, in the mid lane here, Darkwing's DNA going back and forth yet again. We're seeing the damage being pumped out already by DNA with those Twin Fangs.
It's so unfortunate to watch too for Darkwings, because as soon as the Noxious Blast lands, the little green pop in the mid lane, that's when you know Cassiopeia is likely gonna get the better end of the trade. She can chain those Twin Fangs almost endlessly after she gets one of those. So Darkwings certainly feeling the hurt right now, not able to just straight up outskill in the mid lane, which is something that I've definitely seen him do before, right? This is still that top level of League of Legends, but every once in a while you see these gaps emerging. This game, not one of them. It is down to the wire, and Darkwings is on to Cyber.
I really like this a lot from AOE. However, in the bot lane, big fight
Dreams
opening.
actually goes low. Good flash from him. Will it be enough here? Doesn't look like Cal's going to be able to finish off the kill. For those of you new to the stream, by the way, for those of you who are coming over from all the other series on Risen, we're referring to Tail9 Tails as Cal because that's his name.
Yeah, exactly. That, for no other reason than that is his name. Bot lane here, though, we're seeing Cyber go for a dive. Oh, not even needed. Cal picks up first blood here.
I'll be honest, it's a little greedy from AOE to stick around, and it could cost them big, especially because that dragon's up.
Yeah, Dragon priority now fully on Dig's terms here as the TP comes through from Darkwings in the mid lane. DNA still has his TP up as well, though. We may see that get used just to counter it, or he may just save it to go for the Dragon. No, it's going to be used automatically in the mid. So this Dragon is essentially free for Dig to pick up here. Nothing for AoE to contest that on.
And in a way, the teleport into the mid lane is still kind of a teleport for Dragon, right? You keep the mid priority going your way. You're probably going to be fine here. Cyber going to be able to grab that first Ocean Drake. Interestingly enough, the first time that it's not an Infernal this time as well. Flash from DNA, though, is pretty big as RBM comes into the mid lane, flashes himself. This could be DNA going down, trades the ult back, but it's not enough as that Chain Lash finishes off the kill.
Incredibly close there. DNA having to burn Flash as well as that Petrifying Gaze, but it just was not enough as that AoE from the Q and the Chain Lash of Dark Wings was able to pop him at the very last second there. A very nice pickup there in the mid lane. And what I wanted to talk about earlier was when we saw RBM, Faisal, and Darkwings move over to the Raptors of Cyber. I like that they're being proactive in trying to stop Cyber's ascent to this godliness that we saw in the last game and trying to actively counter jungle him. So it was a good move on the side of AoE. Didn't really stop him much, though, as we saw Cyber go into the bot lane, help execute what would have been a dive, I think, either way, but then help secure the Dragon for his team.
Yeah, the Dragon's the big difference maker in the jungle as well, because right now we're trading is objectives for economy.
Right.
While Cyber ends up going for the Drake, an investment in the late game, it's RBM that takes the route of, well, I just want to help some lane get ahead, and he's doing it one more time in this mid lane. DNA doesn't have the ult this time. He's going to go down second time in 2 minutes right now, and you've got a Silas that is nicely ahead.
Yeah, Silas is going to get big. I mean, you talk about Kha'Zix getting big. Once Silas gets big, that's just as scary because he is going to be walking around with your team's ultimates, whether it be the Ornhorn, the Petrifying Gaze, even if it's the Encore from Seraphine, which I think is the big one, the major turning point for any kind of team fight. Is he manages to grab a plate in the mid lane already, secure himself some gold here. We already have about a 2k gold lead garnished pre-10 minutes.
It's really funny to me because I've seen Darkwings smurf on both Viego and Silas. So in a way, he's like better at playing other people's champions. You know what I'm saying? Like it seems like he's always just like doing his best with the things that he takes away from other people. And this game is looking to be no different as already he's made quite a splash. But Dig Mirage aren't going down without a fight, ending up taking the proactive play that we saw AOE have in the first game and do it themselves, moving their bot lane up to secure the Rift Herald, completely dominating on the objective front.
Yeah, they were a lot quicker to the draw than AOE, but a fight may still open up here. Darkwings has that ult.
RBM, though, does not, and he is part of their initiation. Darkwings, of course, not wanting to use the Encore for whatever reason, hoping for maybe a little bit more of a follow-up. He's going to go back into the mid lane with this, has the chance to catch out DNA with it, but if I know Darkwings, he's likely just going to burn it on the Scuttle Crab and call it a day.
Just going to use it because he has to. It looks like he is going to make his way up into the top side here to potentially help out Faisal, or looks like he's going to hover around the river and move back down into his own lane. Look for maybe his own lane kick as Faisal just kind of playing with his food here.
Yeah, walks into 2 members here and has RBM on the backup, so that's going to be Light Pulse going down, interestingly enough. The ult connects onto Cow as well, and it's going to be a flash forced out of the Ezreal. Faisal backing away from the teleport that's coming in as Dragoon wants to answer back for the life that was claimed. Good flash from Renekton, though, keeps him alive, and it will be AOE that quite literally get away with murder.
Yeah, a very solid fight for them as we saw Faisal bide his time, wait for RBM to get up there to help secure the fight, and they do so very handily as they get the heal and flash from Cal. Light Pulse, obviously no flash after that last fight that we saw around that Rift Herald, so very good to take advantage of that fact. However, in the mid lane here, ooh, that Seraphine just gonna go wide there.
Should have burned it on the Scuttle Crab. That's the move there for Dark Wings. Unfortunately, with it going wide, it's not going to be the play, but still the push into tower, assisted by RBM, who's looked really good on the Sejuani, despite my initial hesitations.
Right, yeah, very different champion, but definitely playing it as best as you possibly can at this point. 100% KP over to him. Has assisted or killed in every fight so far. Dragon will be up in about 30 seconds here. This time, it's the second Drake that's going to be the Infernal. Still no Infernal Soul. So we'll either be seeing a Mountain or an Air. And I believe a Mountain would probably be better for both of these teams, just judging by the actual champions they're playing.
Yeah, you like the sustain, right? And the Cloud Dragon, well, it will feel good for some. People like DNA, Dragoon, and Light Pulse, who could all benefit from a little bit more ult CDR. The Dragon giving you the sustain in the fights is really the big difference maker. And I want to see what ends up going down around this second Dragon, though, before we even get the Soul. Because the Infernal is also something that is going to be pretty highly valued by both these squads, especially when you got Sketch Streams here and Light Pulse about to be picked off.
Yeah, the Polymorph came through. Oh, Light Pulse never stood a chance there as the TP from Faisal comes through, able to help secure that kill. And now potentially the Dragon as Cyber works his way up towards the top side. Dragoon has the exhaust with that spellbook right now, and DNA no TP up. So no contestation unless we see Cal try to go for it with the ultimate, but it doesn't look like that is going to be happening.
No, not really a possibility there. And right there in that play alone, AOE get two things that they really want. They get a kill on Sketch Streams, who already has his Wits End, and they get the Infernal Dragon that we were talking about earlier, bolstering their damage just that little bit more. Already, the Kog'Maw is quite strong, and it's only going to be accelerated by the fact that he's gotten that extra kill. RBM, though, consistently going for these ganks in the mid lane, forces the flash at DNA one more time, keeps Cassiopeia on the back foot.
Yeah, Darkwing's going wide on that Abduct Abscond, which means that RBM goes wide on the ultimate there. DNA with a very nice flash to stay alive in that fight. Outside there, we're going to see Sketchstream force the flash over the wall. I'm not sure what started that fight, but Sketchstream does get caught out there as the Rift Herald gets dropped.
Cyber playing careful around here, maybe setting up another dive though, and only Darkwings has the teleport. Can they pull him down from the mid lane in time? It might very well be possible as Rift Herald gets deleted before it crashes into the tower. There's the teleport on the flank here, and it could be Darkwings finding the kills. Gonna go invisible in the middle of the fight as well. Gets charmed though, still might be able to finish off Light Pulse after absorbing the wild growth. Darkwings is the center of this team right now. I said it was Kog'Maw, but it's looking like a Sylas diff.
Yeah, even with the going wide of that Abscond Abduct, Darkwings, with the help of that wild growth, just absolutely helping to massacre Dig there. Even with the TP from DNA, came in a little bit too late and was unable to help out with that fight there, so forced to immediately back off. And AOE come out with what looked like it was going to be a dive from Dig and turns it into their favor with a very nice TP from Darkwings.
There's this really dumb saying in a show that I watched. I don't know if you know it. It's called Suits. It's heralded for being probably the most inaccurate of all law shows possible, but it's really fun. And one of the things that they say in it quite a bit is if somebody has a gun on you, you take that gun, you turn it back around on them. Seems simple, right? Seems maybe a little bit too simple, but it's exactly what AOE did down in the bot lane. Seeing that Dignitas Mirage were setting up a dive onto Sketch Streams and Fizzy, they take that gun and turn it into a play of their own with the teleport flank ward, and I have to applaud that proactive thinking, the ability to see the plays setting up for Dignitas Mirage, turn them on their head, and make them your own.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those things that is easier said than done, but AoE make it look easy. Now, I will say Dig, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, tried to get that Rift Hill to go bot lane with the way they dropped it to help out with that dive. Instead, it did walk into the mid lane and got deleted instantly. I'm not sure if that was what they were trying to set up, but that is what happened. I imagine if they had Rift on their side in the bot lane, it goes a little bit of a different story. But Dragoon up here, taking some poke onto Faisal in the mid lane. Still getting chunked out by Darkwings. Now, of note, no towers fallen just yet. We are 15 minutes into this game, and realistically, not even a whole lot of plates were taken this game.
Something else of note as well is that because of the lack of plates here, DNA actually has the Mythic, and while it might not be what saves him there, instead having it be an incredible petrifying gaze, it's still definitely keeping him even in lane against Darkwings, who's taken a little bit more of a long-winded item approach.
Am I crazy, or did that ultimate go through DNA?
I think it went behind DNA. You know what I'm saying? This is not going to go behind DNA. Yeah, that was a great transition, and it's going to be a great play in the mid lane to get AOE yet another kill off the back of Faisal really making it happen.
Yeah, Faisal, you talking about those proactive plays, a flash dash over the wall by Faisal helps secure that kill. Very nicely done. They're really taking advantage, and AOE, I mean, taking advantage of Dig with these summoners being down. You know, whenever DNA flashes, they're sending RBM or Faisal into the mid lane to try and just get a kill for it, and that's exactly what you need to do in that situation. Take advantage of the timers on your opponent's summoner spells, because that's 5 minutes that DNA is left wide open and vulnerable for a gank.
And you're eliminating something that is a really consistent source of damage for Dignitas in the mid game. If we look at the composition, Ezreal needs a really long time to scale. Some would say longer than Cassiopeia in order to become relevant. Cyber hasn't gotten a kill yet, and your Cassiopeia's 0-3. It leaves Dignitas Mirage with not a whole lot of ways to win team fights straight up. And AOE are the ones that can sort of autopilot their way through the next 10 minutes, get themselves as many objectives as they can, and hopefully make this an unwinnable game for Dig.
Yeah, it's definitely not the same Cyber we saw in the last game. I think he had about half of the kills that he had in the last game by this point. And this time around, not even an assist in his pocket here. Is RBM still pretty much staying up in terms of CS, definitely winning out in the form of itemization as his Mythic is finished. Cyber still working on that Gore Drinker as the Serrated Dirk as well as the Iron Spike Whip have been finished.
Junglers are going to trade objectives here as well, with a small edge going to AOE as Sketchstreams claims the mid lane tower. Definitely still feeling good as Dignitas Mirage keeping up with Cow taking the top lane one, getting a little bit of isolated gold himself, but mid lane tower does a little bit more than give you gold.
Right, yeah, mid lane tower opens up the board on both sides of the map, both bot and top. Helps you secure those dragons as well as what will potentially be a Rift Herald take, as that bot lane tower has been taken as well. Darkwing's channeling the Ornhorn.
I think it's for a wave clear, but it's also kind of an ego ult as he fakes trying to take down Dragoon. Realistically, on the side list shouldn't have the damage right now as Dragoon has finished his Mythic as well. None of these guys have too much Magic Pen or...
Right.
It's sort of a net zero here, but it gets you a little bit more gold. And now finally, Darkwings will be able to reset with that little bit of extra oomph in his wallet, get himself the core itemization here, and hopefully become the powerhouse that we know Silas can be once he's got 2 kills under his belt, completely uncontested.
Yeah, and Dragoon right there especially had the upper hand in the fact that Darkwings was very, very low on mana. Not very many spells going to be used there. And it's really hard to kill Dragoon at this point, even if you are Sketchstreams, because Dragoon just has so much tankiness in him that until somebody has some kind of heal cut built in and just grievous wounds, anything to chunk him out, Dragoon is going to be living through these fights a lot. The main focuses are still going to be the likes of Cow, DNA, Cyber, but if you're AoE, you really need to pick and choose who you're going for, because you can put all your focus on the Cyber. And if you do that, you're going to let Cow and DNA do a lot of damage to you while Light Pulse throws out those encores and just distracts your entire team with a massive charm. So if you're AoE, you're looking for picks, and then when you're looking for a full-on team fight, it really comes down to who you want to prioritize in that fight first.
And we'll see what they end up deciding. The thing that I'm really happy about on AOE is that, at the very least, there aren't a whole lot of evident weaknesses in the composition. Sure, Fizzy mispositioning is a problem. Sure, Sketchstream's mispositioning is a problem, but that's all misplay. There's nothing inherent about this composition at the state of the game right now that actually makes them weak. And the thing that I was most worried about, Faisal in the top lane, has managed to stay even and even a little bit ahead on the Renekton in CS, has been making the proactive plays, and is looking like a different player than the one that I expected coming into today. A lot more together and able to create his own advantages.
Yeah, definitely held his own incredibly well, even with the dives with the ganks that were up top side. Taking a little bit of a fight up top right now. Dragoon definitely getting the better of him there. However, in the mid here, we are going to be seeing, I imagine, the tower getting taken down quite a bit. No minions to follow up on it, though, to try to finish it off. And we see Darkwings in the bot side here, forcing the rest of Dig M to migrate towards the bot side to stop that push, as he was getting a nice wave onto that second tower here. Cyber going to go ahead and grab that blue. Surprised, not going to be giving that over to DNA this late in the game.
Well, here's the thing. If you're giving it over to DNA, who are you really giving it over to? Because DNA is 0-3, and that's not a coincidence, right? Like, RBM will just be like, oh, I guess I can keep my blue because Darkwings is going to get the Cassiopeias. And it's a gamble that you're running, and one that I'm sure is a team call right now, because this isn't solo queue. Cyber isn't making these decisions in a vacuum. Dignitas Mirage as a whole right now, they're recognizing that, realistically, their Cassiopeia isn't the difference maker right now.
No, that's very true. The thing is, though, you do want to scale her up. You need to make sure that somebody on your team gets online. 21 minutes into the game, you're not expecting Kha'Zix to be the one that comes online in this game. You're hoping he does that a little while ago, because Kha'Zix not going to be the definitive playmaker at this point, especially when you have Renekton getting big. You've got Silas pretty big. You've got RBM, who is this massive tank, who, if you try jumping past him, he's going to knock you up. He's going to ult you. You're not going to be able to move in a team fight. So, realistically, you do want to get people like Cal, people like DNA ahead at this point in time, because they are your late game scalers, especially with Dragoon being on this Ornn. He's looking to get those ornaments on your team to help scale them within the next 5 or so minutes.
I will say I actually really like where Cow is at as well. The tail 9 tails on your screen right now, who we're referring to as Cow, has 2 items already on the Ezreal, and while it might not be the time when he starts to take over the game, it's sort of the break point in the wave. At this point, every item that he gets from here on out will almost multiply his power even further, and and it's sort of a scale up to this point, and then it starts really taking off. The parabola comes into effect, and Dignitas Mirage, if they can stall out the game for a little while longer, perhaps by taking this Mountain Dragon, they can get him to a pretty strong point himself. Right now, they do have priority on the mountain. We'll see if they can take it.
AOE has a really good positioning here. Faisal is in the back line here. We have Darkwings coming through. Ultimate is available. He wants to steal that from Light Pulse, I would imagine. Here comes Faisal.
Ooh, the ultimate gonna go wide. The Glacial Prison not quite there, but on the back end, the Petrifying Gaze does claim 1 life. Faisal goes down. The Encore, not quite enough to turn it. It's gonna be Sketchstream still from the backline, trying to put out the relevant damage, but doesn't have access to the members of Dig Mirage that he needs to be autoing. It's gonna be Dignitas Mirage that walk away with this fight. They are gonna be able to stall out the game, and DNA is far from irrelevant.
Yeah, that was an incredible turnaround from Dig M there. I'm not entirely sure what exactly happened on the side of AOE that made them lose that fight. It started out great. I don't know if Darkwings didn't have access to the Light Pulse ultimate, but just opted to go for Dragoon with the Ornhorn instead. And I don't know if that would have been the optimal play there, taking that, because it goes a little bit wide and it forces his team to try to play around that Ornhorn. As now Baron is on the plate here for Dig M.
I don't know if this is the optimal play either, but RBM, he can't get into the pit. Will this cost Dig Mirage big? Because Faisal, he's ready to stop the backs now. Finds DNA. If DNA goes down and Dragoon goes down, it's actually not the worst thing ever. And it seems like everybody else is getting out okay. It's a risky play for sure, but I think Dig, they get what they expected to get and are still on top.
Yeah, not only did they get a couple of kills, but both of those kills went onto Sketchstreams, who has that Kraken Slayer finish, so is outputting an insane amount of damage. On top of that, Wit's End. So they walk away with at least maybe a moral win in a couple of kills that now only 3 members of Dig have that Baron buff here, and they're looking for more though, contesting around this red buff, and RBM does manage to steal that away from Cyber.
You got to appreciate that even in a time where Dignitas Mirage roll those dice, try and take a little bit more, and do get away even with that Baron, that AOE are still willing to push the small advantages in the jungle, trying to take away that red buff, and even now, finding themselves at top lane tower, when they haven't been in control of the game for the last 30, 45 seconds, maybe even a minute or two, they wrestle control back in a big way right there.
Right, they secure a couple of kills, they get deep in the jungle there and steal a red, but they do lose a mid lane turret for that top turret, but they're still securing at least a 2k gold lead at the moment, which isn't bad given the circumstances of those last couple of fights. Now, we're dead even in terms of the Drakes, dead even on towers. The significant difference is on those kills right now, 8-3, but I imagine within the next fight, that could close up to maybe, you know, 9-4 if they just look for a 1-for-1, or it could go out in all-out bloodbath, make it 8-8 or 8-9, depending on how they look for these kills. Because a lot of the fights that we've been seeing in the past couple of games have lasted 30 seconds to a minute. You know, people are respawning and TPing back to these fights and securing more kills.
Gonna be up to RBM to start one as he's here on the flank right now. Nobody else really having an off angle on AOE, but Dignitas Mirage, they're happy enough to just sit back, let their minions do the big work. Encore is gonna connect. Sketchstreams instantly cleanses that to stay alive, and the Ornhorn gonna be used as well to try and find the engage. Dignitas Mirage, they still get to play from far back, this time with Sketchstreams having a lot fewer tools.
RBM really just needs to walk around and go back into the lane. He would have had a much better angle to get that ultimate down. Instead, was completely zoned off by Dragoon, so couldn't get the ult off unless he just wanted to hit the Ornn for it, and that definitely would not have been worth it. Would have liked to see him get a better angle on that fight. However, nothing lost, nothing gained really in all of that. Just a little bit of a siege coming through from Dig with that Baron buff, with what remains of it anyway. They get a little bit of poke off on the tower. Used a couple of ultimates for it, but definitely no loss for really anybody on that fight.
Yeah, it's a very even Steven sort of area, and I would even say that applies to the game right now, with 2 dragons apiece, with the gold only 2,000 gold apart, with the turrets exactly even. It feels almost like we're starting just at the beginning of the game going, well, these teams are right tied up. What are they going to do from here on out? The only difference being that now people hit a lot harder.
And with this dragon coming up within the next minute here, this will really be the decisive fight, I think, between who is going to start coming out on top in this game. Because right now, obviously, we're looking at AOE as the leaders of it. But Dig, we saw it in game number 2. We saw it earlier on in this game, that Dig can really turn around a team fight and flip the script for themselves to come up big in any team fight. As now everybody getting secured around this bot side here. AOE gonna have the quicker move on it. Dig, no Baron, so can't really pressure the lanes, and now a death bush getting set up by AOE. They're looking for a fight.
RBM still has that ultimate as well, able to start this off from long range, finds the stun on DNA, but it's a quadra petrifying gaze that comes back to bite AOE, and they all get knocked up. Encore in the face. The CC change is just too much. Dignitas Mirage, how did they do it?
That was an insane turnaround right there for Dig, and it really all just comes down to the execution of that fight. AOE ran face first, pretty much blind, into DNA with the petrifying gaze. They got completely stunned up there. Light Pulse with an insane charm as well. The amount of CC on Dig is just too strong. You cannot run face first into that without using your abilities first. You need to have RBM throw down the ultimate first. You need to have Darkwing secure someone's ultimate before he dies, because he died without even being able to ult there. And now Dragon goes over to Dig. They are soul point away here, and it looks like we're going to just be seeing Cal running through the blue side of the jungle here of AOE, just making it his own.
I'm shocked even at the perfect storm that Dignitas Mirage were able to conjure right there. And like you say, AOE maybe not finding the exact timing that they needed, really lose every single one of their win conditions. And I don't even mean it in the sense that they die. I just mean that if you're going to be fighting like that, you really just don't have anything, because the Kog'Maw is the one thing that you can rely on when everything else fails. But not when the Kog'Maw is also getting encored to the face, when he's receiving a ram headbutt and is being petrifying gazed. It's just simply too much. And AOE are gonna have to try this again, but instead of around that dragon, this time it's gonna have to be around the Baron.
Yeah, and you have to say, if you're close enough to get hit by a petrifying gaze, you're probably too close to that fight. And it looks like down in the bot lane here, speaking of close fights, Faisal and Dragoon going head-to-head against each other now, and AOE caught in a pretty bad predicament here, positioning-wise. Dig almost take full advantage of that. If that Q would have landed by Cal onto Sketch Dream, Sketch would be about half health with the damage that Cal has right now. 4-0-1 on this Ezreal, and while nobody really won their lanes around the board for Dig, Cal never lost lane, and that's a big thing, is that if Ezreal's not losing lane, if he's not constantly dying, if he's able to just sit back and farm and, you know, passively kind of grab these assists and these kills from far back, that's all he needs. Just to throw himself, propel himself very far into this game. He's got 3 items. He is over Sketch Dreams' gold at this point.
And one of those items, interestingly enough, is the Frozen Heart, which is not something that you often see on Ezreal, but has given him a lot of ability haste and a lot of survivability. It's almost one of those builds that you used to see, but now he's getting so much more value because of the fact that he's into a Kog'Maw as well, and attack speed is so ridiculously important. Flash Force from Dark Wings there takes away even more tools from AOE, and Dignitas Mirage seems like now the game is theirs.
I will say I'm a little bit surprised at Cal going for the more passive build with that Frozen Heart. I feel like in the circumstances right now, definitely could have built damage for sure. But going the safe route is, you know, none too bad at all, because this is 1-1. You're in the final game. You want to play a little bit safe while at the same time make sure you keep your power spikes up. So while I do like the Frozen Heart, definitely could have gone for literally anything else if you wanted to. But definitely looking strong right now. Can really half health anybody on the side of AOE with one single combo, and AOE need to recognize that before they go for kind of a head-on rush, just too big-headed for the next team fight, because in the last couple team fights, I don't know if it's just a matter of positioning or just the usage of their abilities has not gone in their favor, and now they're setting up yet another death push here, but nobody around to really collapse on.
Yeah, you've got to catch exactly one person out, and the question is, who is that person who is also face-checking? Because right now, Dragoon is the one that can walk in, and he can more than sustain through a lot of the burst here. If you're catching out DNA, who you've caught out plenty of times by now, there's the Zanyas to back all that up. Cyber's got the Gore Drinker and a little bit of mobility. Ezreal, very similar with the Frozen Heart. And if Light Pulse is near your bush, okay, I'll give it to you. AoE, you win that fight. But it's likely not going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, let's look at the ornaments as well. At least, actually, let's look at this fight first. DNA goes golden.
Yeah, that's exactly what we talked about here, and a great stun as well is going to come in, finding Dark Wings. It's all up to Sketch Dreams, but he's got a Cyber on top of him, has to flash away, can't even sustain through the fight, and it all just goes to heck in a handbasket. Whoop, almost caught myself there. As AOE, they get dismantled once again by Dignitas Mirage being able to pull the trigger at the right time, and unfortunately AOE seems like they don't know when the right time is, or if there even is one.
Yeah, at this point in time, it's really close to just being over. I mean, DiM have really started securing these fights. AOE playing them a little bit haphazardly. And now, with not only the Baron on the board, but also the Soul, you gotta wonder what AOE can do to get back into this game. And I know you're the play-by-play, and that's kind of my job to look at, but me saying that out loud is me wondering to myself, what can AOE do to get back into this game?
Yeah, it's tough, and I think that it goes back to exactly what they were trying to do before. Set up, start with a pick, but they go on to DNA, and with limited options here, they don't manage to pull it out, right? It comes down to these miracle fights, and right now, it's coming down to Kog'Maw scaling and Lulu scaling, because just being able to straight up start off a team fight that you win doesn't seem to be the recipe to success. They've got to absorb the engage from Dig Mirage. Faisal goes in there, Dark Wings along with him, does manage to delete Late Pulse. This could be the pick that starts it off just right, but Faisal's going low, and Sketch Dreams isn't even there until right now, finally able to auto down Dragoon, but you're already missing 2 men. members, finally takes down that Orin as Darkwings goes back in onto DNA, but it's Sketch Streams that gets deleted by Cyber. The win condition of the Kazakhs once again comes back, and Dignitas Mirage, I think they've got this.
And RBM just now getting to that fight. They find 3 on AOE. Excuse me, they find 4 for AOE. 3 for Dig M there, but Dig definitely coming out big in that fight. RBM, I don't know what you're thinking, buddy. You're definitely not fighting Cow here.
I think we've just discovered the power of the 4.5 item Ezreal, who literally just could not give a dang if you are on top of him or not. RBM, just a CC bot right now, and even that CC won't stop Cow.
Yeah, I don't know what could have gone differently for that fight for AOE except having everybody together for the fight. It was very scrambled. They had 3, then they kind of had 4 with sketch streams, but 2 were already dead. So all in all, the whole thing was really like a 2v5 after all was said and done. And then after it all, Cyber is just absolutely popping off on this Kha'Zix, making me eat my words now. 3-0-10 on this Kha'Zix from a couple of misplays from AOE. And now you're looking at the ornaments as well. The Leandries buff, you've got the Divine Sunderer buff, the Gore Drinker buff. Everything is coming online. Once that happens, the game is all but over when Dragoon starts to scale everybody on the team even higher than they already are.
And think about it, we've been talking about the win conditions for AOE. We even spoke of them right there, as it looked like they were about to win a team fight. It's picks. And now a Mountain Soul for Dig Mirage? I mean, it couldn't get any harder than this. Now with the Baron buff as well, they're going to be able to likely break the base here. Cyber, feeling comfortable frontlining even, is going to eat a lot of CC. Manages to use the QSS though, and it all comes back to bite AOE. As Encore, then the Orin Horn claims 4 lives and is about to make it 5. Fizzy falls, a triple kill, goes to Cow, and Dig Mirage, they may have just won this game.
I can only imagine that is gotta be the game for Dig as they secure the top lane inhib here, are working their way onto these Nexus turrets here. A couple of emotes getting thrown out from Light Pulse there, but they are securing these Nexus towers. They will secure the Nexus, and Dig M are gonna take on AOE 2-1.
And this is the best start that Dignitas Mirage could have asked for. They came into Risen Champions needing to prove a point that the Mirage name was back to stay, backed by one of the largest orgs that League knows. And Dignitas, they really do make their stamp here. This is the most convincing that this could have been, while still proving that we've definitely got a lot of competition in the league, because the first game looked really good for AOE, but it was the adaptability from Dignitas Mirage that really made the difference.
Yeah, and that's really what I love seeing in teams, is that adaptability. AOE walking away with game 1, Dig turning everything around, realizing their mistakes, realizing the mistakes that AOE made in game number 1, and flipping it around, making them their own advantages, taking game number 2, and then taking their strengths from game number 2 into game 3, and taking the entire series. Very well fought.
And this was, I'm going to say it, this was a Cyber diff right here. I know Cow stepped up big. I know that a lot of people will look at this and go, but the Seraphine ults were good too. And yes, you can't do it without your team. But Cyber really on the Kha'Zix was absolutely smacking around AOE there, making the big differences, and not Darkwings, not RBM, not Faisal, and not Sketch Streams could compete with this guy on the Kha'Zix. You ban this next time you go up against him.
Yeah, I'm really surprised it even made it through pick draft in the 3rd game there. Leaving that up, maybe just a little bit of cockiness from AOE, thinking that they can, you know, take on this Kha'Zix and just stuff it in its tracks. But after game 2, it didn't happen. And it didn't happen at all in game number 3 at all either, because I don't think Cyber died in the last game there. And he played it extremely well, moved around the map. Even when his team was down the entire game, he bided his time, sat in the jungle, waited for those picks, moved when he had to, and played it incredibly well.
Now, I will say that the journey doesn't end here. I know we came into the day going, AOE have a chip on their shoulder. They need to prove that they're in contention for those top teams. But the journey doesn't stop right now, because they've got another chip on their shoulder. Even after having fallen in the first series of Risen Champions League, Tomorrow, the stakes only get higher because they're going to go back up against AOE randoms who knocked them out of Challengers Uprising just last tournament. Be sure to tune in tomorrow on the Risen stream to make sure that you catch that series. See if AOE can make the comeback against the randoms or whether they'll once again fall in Risen Champions League. It's a great start to the season. Let's see how long we can keep it going.
Yep. See you guys later.